podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, April 3rd, 2022. This is episode 1882. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV has everything you need to level up your IT skills while you enjoy the journey. Visit itpro.tv/twit for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use the code TWIT30 at checkout. And by members of Club Twit. If you're not a Club Twit member, why not? $7 a month gives you ad-free versions of all the shows. You also get access to our incredible Club Twit Discord. Lots of fun in there all the time on every subject, including all the shows. And, of course, the Twit Plus feed, which includes shows we don't put out anywhere else, like the Untitled Linux Show, the Giz Fizz, Stacy's Book Club, and all the special events. Make sure you join. twit.tv/clubtwit. Thanks in advance. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still call, but you're going to have to call using Skype or something like that. Should be toll free. Shouldn't cost you anything. 8888 Ask Leo. The website... What kind of tech guy I'd be if I didn't have a website? The website, techguylabs.com. And actually, that's the home of the whole podcast network that I do, the Twit network. So there's lots of other stuff there. But if you click techguylabs.com, you'll take you directly to the page for the radio show. All the episodes are there. This is episode 1882. If you click that link, you'll see a list of the things we talk about on the show today. We'll see... links to the music that Professor Laura, our musical director, plays. That takes a little while to get on the site, but it'll get there. What else? A transcript of the show and audio and video from the show. And the transcript you can use to jump right to the part that you're looking for. So it's all there. And it's free. No sign up. techguylabs.com. Boy, we've been talking a lot about spam coming in, text spam and robocalls, spam coming into your cell phones. Is it getting worse? My wife says it's getting worse all of a sudden. And judging from the calls I'm getting, it seems to be getting worse. It's supposed to be getting better. So the reason we get so much spam on our phones is it costs spammers almost nothing to send them out. And that's important for the economics of the whole thing. If it cost them a penny a call, you wouldn't get spam. Because it costs them so much less, it's virtually free, they can make millions of calls. Why do they need to make millions of calls? Because most of us aren't going to fall for it. You didn't fall for it. You don't fall for it. Most of us aren't going to fall for it. We're not going to click the link. We're not going to buy the extended auto warranty. We're not going to get the timeshare in Monaco. We're not going to do any of that stuff. So they need to send out a lot. But if you send out 1 million spam, and this is true of email too, spam messages of one kind or another, and 0.1% respond, that's still 10,000 good, suckers. That's still and if it only costs you $10 to do it, well, that sounds like a good deal, doesn't it? So the FCC has supposedly done something about it. They say it was broadly implemented in June 30th of 2021. Well, why is it getting worse in March of 2022, FCC? I think that's, of course you want to blame the carriers too. In last year, the FCC implemented something called Stir and Shaken. A Stir and Shaken, which is a system to authenticate calls so that you can, if you're a mobile carrier, you can know that that phone number, the originating number, is a real number and who comes from and all that stuff. So it's a caller ID authentication technology, which makes it much harder to spoof. See, by the way, that's another fundamental to this. It needs to be cheap. And the sending address, whether it's email, spam, via text, spam, or robocalls, the calling number has to be fake. Don't call the number that called you and yell at them. That's not the person who called you. That's just a number they spoofed. So with Stir and Shaken, the FCC says voice service providers can easily identify calls with illegally spoofed caller ID before it reaches the subscribers. Oh, here's the loophole. Under FCC rules, quote, most... Okay, there's a problem right there. Large, another problem, voice service providers are currently required to implement it. Yeah, Sprint, Verizon, T-Mobile, they're implementing it. The commission granted small voice service providers with 100,000 or fewer subscriber lines. Who would those be? An extension until June 30th, 2023. Wait a minute. Now that with today's action, they did something last June. Small voice service providers that are not facilities based will now have to do it by June 30th, 2022. So the exemption leaves out all of the services spammers are using. Because they're not doing it with T-Mobile, Verizon, and Sprint. They're doing it with some little guy in, the Caribbean. So if they don't have a facility, in other words, if they're totally virtual made up, they have till June 30th of this year to knock it off. If they have a building with switches in it, in other words, if they're, let's say you're the Trinidad and Tobago phone company, right? And you have, 10,000 subscribers. And as a little side thing, you allow people to use their computers to make phone calls with numbers that they provide you with spoof. Well, you have good news until June 30th of next year to fix this. So if you're wondering why it's getting worse, my guess is it's getting worse because they only have a few more months to take advantage of this with the completely virtual operators, and then they'll all run to the ones that have facilities, and then they'll have another year and a few months to do it. So let's see. We'll see. We'll check back. June 30th. Thank you, FCC, for being so... They dragged their feet on this. And why would the FCC drag their feet on this? What does the FCC benefit from this? Not a whit. But I have to think that Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint in the U.S., and big companies in other countries benefit from it somehow. Maybe they're getting fees, And so they have been lobbying the FCC. Well, don't do it too fast. Don't. So it's lobbying money. It's dollars pouring into the FCC saying, don't rush. Because otherwise, why would they say, well, you have till June 30th? The excuse is, well, it's expensive. We've got, Your Honor, we've got to implement Stir and Shaken. That's not easy to do. Give us some time. So the line from the FCC of June 30th of last year was broadly implemented. Yeah, broadly implemented with people it didn't make any difference. Now, we'll see, okay, so we'll see June 30th if it slows down. So you got 3 more months. Just, hang in there. It is interesting, though, that they're stepping it up, right? I guess they figure, well, we got 3 more months. And then there'll be another year after that. There'll still be some. And then will it go away completely? No, because by then they'll have figured out a way around it. They'll figure... Spam is like water leaks. They find a way. They just find a way. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So if you're wondering, well, why am I still getting these after all those press releases? Well, now you know. Because the loopholes. I owe you an apology if you listen to this show, you know I recommended Wyze cameras, W-Y-Z-E cameras. They're inexpensive, really less expensive. The subscriptions are much cheaper. They're really good cameras, blah, blah, blah. Great company. They do headphones, too, and other stuff. Well, I'm sorry I was wrong. I was wrong. Turns out Wyze, which is a Seattle-based company, for the last 3 years has known about a security vulnerability in its cameras that could let hackers access your video feeds over the internet. Instead of fixing it, they just allowed it and didn't even tell anybody. Now, in January, they discontinued the camera that's vulnerable, the Wyze Cam V1. They didn't say why. This week, Bitdefender, who discovered this flaw, finally explained, well, because on those version 1 Wyze cams, of which I have a couple, someone could theoretically access your SD card in your camera, steal the encryption key, got it, and then just start watching and downloading the video over the internet without any, you didn't even know about it. It would have to, I think, it would have, they say, according to The Verge, you'd have to be inside your home network. So, okay. So, anyway, maybe it's a hard thing to do, but look, it's on Wyze. They should have publicized it. They should have fixed it, and they didn't do either. Wyze spokesperson told The Verge, as far as the company's concerned, it's already been transparent with its customers and fully corrected the issue. Yeah, on the latest cameras. So it's up to you whether, the problem is if a company does that, like knows about it for years and doesn't do anything, that makes everything they do from then on completely suspect. I'm just going to say, I'm not going to recommend them anymore, and we're not going to buy them anymore, and we're going to find something else. Sorry about that. And if you have a version 1 Wyze cam, get rid of it. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. 888, I'm saddened because I thought this was a good company. 8888 Ask Leo. Lines are open. Let's get some calls in here, and we'll take them right after this. Yeah, we have a 2020 M1 Mac Mini, which allows you to connect 2 external monitors, according to Apple, one via HDMI, one via USB-C. No. Wrong. It's not seeing the other monitor. That's what's not working. Yeah, no, I know all this, guys. You're telling me stuff, believe me. I can connect to the internet now and search. According to Apple, you should be able to use HDMI and DisplayPort on a Mac Mini 2020. I have to say, I'm having the same problem at home. I've ordered some Type-C to DisplayPort cables. We'll see if I can do it. Oh, you didn't? Oh, yeah. Well, it's not. Well, I have to buy a new computer. It's not casual affluence. This is studio expenses. And I have to have a computer here that works. And the reason it needs to work is because I need to see it, but we also need to be able to send it to the scan converter so I can put it on the air. It's a studio thing. It's like saying I need a new microphone. I have to have it. It's not casual affluence. It's equipment that works. I did save the box for the M1, so I'll just send it back to Apple, but I'm so peeved. I'm just going to get an Intel PC that'll work just fine. What's funny is the scan converter can see the HDMI, but as soon as I'm doing that, I can't turn on a monitor. So, yeah, just a PC. I think, honestly, Apple has really not... Yeah. So is that... Oh, look at that. Good man. Look at that.
Is it right?
Yeah. Yeah, it actually doesn't even look bad. Wow. I'm sorry, I don't understand.
She stumped me today.
I don't know. Hello, Kim Schaffer. That's a phone song of some kind.
It must be.
Must be.
I thought it was Elton John at first, but...
Wait a minute. What's that small alien you have over your shoulder there? It looks like the alien from Men in Black. Is that a pug? What is that? There's an alien in here. What's his name?
McLovin.
Hello, McLovin.
McLovin.
Hello, McLovin. He looks just like the alien in Men in Black. You know, those big bug eyes. And
Yeah.
I'll find that clip for you.
He snores loud.
Yeah.
I need earplugs.
Well, look how short his nose is. There's nowhere for the air to go. Just got a little. So, Miss Schaffer, Ms. Schaffer, should I take a call?
Yeah, let's go to Dirk in Big Rapids, Michigan.
You had me scared. I didn't see any calls at first, and I thought,
yeah,
oh no.
The phones were working, but people are sleeping in. Like this dog that didn't get up till 9:30. Big Rapids, not to be confused with Grand Rapids.
Or Little Rapids.
Or Little Rapids.
Is there? We'll find out. Hi, Dirk.
Dirk will know.
Hi, Dirk.
Hello.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, I have been a fan of yours since 2016. You've actually got me into Linux, so I appreciate it. And
Nice.
I have a Linux-related question.
Nice.
So I sadly have to use Windows still for certain applications, so I invested in the wrong type of gear. I have the Elgato ecosystem, which will not function right with Linux. It's only like Windows drivers and such. So I'm trying to work on a project where I can have a Windows VM and a Linux, and I can't speak today, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I have a Linux install, and I want to be able to have a Windows virtual machine with a GPU pass-through, so it's a direct GPU pass-through. I'm trying to find the best GPU that I can use for the host operating system and one I can use for the virtual machine.
Holy cow! That is beyond my pay grade. So the Elgato stuff, which Elgato stuff are you trying to use? The video capture stuff? The old Elgato stuff?
Oh, no, not the old Elgato stuff. Sadly, it's all the new stuff.
They got bought by Crucial, and they should work just fine with Windows. With Linux.
From what I've been using is I have the Elgato Wave 3 and I have the Stream Deck, which both I use vitally now because they have been very useful.
I love the Stream Deck. Yeah.
I'm currently subcutting television and digital media production, so these two things have been very vital.
Very handy.
Really good applications.
Yeah. But all the apps are Windows apps. That's the real issue. It's not that they don't talk to them, but it's just their Windows apps. Is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
So what I was mainly going to ask is, I know it's a little bit complicated, but I know the best solution would be getting an AMD GPU. But I was curious on which one you would recommend in today's GPU market of everything costing a little liver.
So what are you using the GPU for? Video editing?
I do video editing and light gaming. So my current GPU, unfortunately, is an NVIDIA GPU, and you cannot split up any sort of lanes like you can on an AMD one.
Yeah.
So
I use NVIDIA with Linux all the time, but I don't. But it may be that the kinds of things you're doing don't work.
Yeah.
If you get which Linux distro are you using?
So the one that I have been experimenting around with and I've had most success with has been Pop! OS, mostly Debian-based distros.
Pop! OS is very good. In fact, one of the selling points of Pop! OS is that it works especially well with NVIDIA, with kind of transparently. So I should explain all of this to people going, what are they talking about? So there's Windows, there's Mac, and then there's this third kind of operating system called Linux. It's a free open source operating system. You're using it if you have an Android phone that's based on Linux. Whenever you surf the web, chances are half the websites at least that you're visiting are running on Linux. It's very popular. It's just that it's not that well known as a desktop operating system. It's getting better, and I think it should be well known as a desktop operating system. Then there's additional information, which is because no company owns Linux, there are many hundreds, maybe thousands of versions of Linux, all running the same Linux kernel, but with additional features on top. And Pop! OS, which is created by a company that makes Linux designed hardware specifically designed to use Linux, System 76, they're very good. And because they wanted to sell NVIDIA video cards, they want to make sure Linux worked well with it. So that's one of the primary reasons they did Pop! OS. The reason this is an issue is because the companies that make additional hardware often support for Linux is a second thought, an afterthought, or a no thought. And in the case of NVIDIA, there are drivers, but they're not open source. They're what we call proprietary. Linux users sometimes say, well, I'm not going to use anything that's not open source. I don't want to use a proprietary driver. So a lot of Linux distros don't do well with proprietary drivers. But they happen to offer, NVIDIA does offer drivers. So that's one solution, is maybe, see if you get your drivers to work. AMD is generally considered more Linux friendly, although, as far as I'm concerned, I'm perfectly, I run, play a lot of games on my Linux box running NVIDIA 3080. So it's just fine. Really, the issue of what NVIDIA card to get is going to depend on how much money you have to spend, how much you need it. I'm not sure how much you need it. Certainly your video editing software will use it.
Yeah, because the main priority right now is I'm just mostly looking to pass through the 2080, which I know is possible, but I need to have another graphics card to run the Linux host.
Got it.
Otherwise, I can't split it up.
Well, I mean, I think the 6800 is a great choice. Basically the way they do it is that the 6000 is the current generation. So you get a 6000 series, get whichever one, A, you can get because they're in great short supply, and B, what you can afford, and they should work just fine. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Car guy coming up. Sorry, I ran out of time, unfortunately, because I had to explain all that. I'm sorry. So what are you looking at right now as a GPU?
So right now I have been looking around at, I believe it's the Fermi generation. I'm a really tech avid person. A lot of people online like to watch certain YouTubers, and I was fascinated by a Linus Tech Tips video that involved talking about how NVIDIA recently rid of some restrictions on using NVIDIA graphics cards and VMs. So I was looking around saying, any old AMD card will work as long as it supports, DirectX 12. That's my main priority.
You need to support DirectX 12. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only requirement that I pretty much have, just in case I need to do anything in the Linux host operating system.
Right.
And the main reason why I'm trying to do this is just because a lot of the applications I also use for college and also my video editing stuff, sadly, is not available for Linux. I would love to switch over to Resolve.
Yeah.
I would love to do all that, but sadly, I'm stuck on Premiere.
One solution is a dual boot rather than do it in an emulator. Qemu, QEMU, which is a nice free emulator, will do GPU pass-through, I'm told by our chat room. Thank you, Keith. So Qemu's nice because you can try it for free. Huh?
I believe that was the one I was looking into.
Yeah. It's nice. It's free. It's not going to be the fastest thing out there, but if it does GPU pass-through, that'll certainly help. And then, honestly, it's going to be what can you get because it's hard to get GPUs right now because of the supply chain shortage and everything else. I've been very happy with my 3080. I'm running a Ryzen 7 5900 and a 3080, and I'm playing Valheim and other hardcore Linux games on Linux. Valheim's Linux first, which is nice.
And thank God for Valve actually doing the Steam Deck.
And the Steam Deck is huge because then you can run Proton or Lutris, and you get a lot more gaming. So, which game are you trying to play?
I am a very weird gamer. I play Final Fantasy 14 online, so it's one of those older MMORPGs.
Yeah.
And very recently, they decided to brick the Steam Deck support by adding a certain DRM.
Isn't that sweet? DRM just kills me. I tell you, these companies, come on, knock it off.
What I found it very funny is I got into Final Fantasy this past year, and in the Steam Deck advertising that Gaben did, he was actually talking about it, and like almost all the advertisements he was doing publicity stunts for, saying,
you can see poor Gabe Newell. I mean, he's not poor, obviously, but I feel bad for him because it's just a challenge. Hey, I'm sorry, I have to run there because I've got to do Sam.
Yes.
But I keep in touch. Let me know what you end up doing and how it works out.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you so much for introducing me to the world of Linux. Your 2016 Linux Mint video still sticks with me to this day.
Nice. Hey, have a great day. I think Pop OS was a good choice, yeah. All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Sam.
Hello, Leo.
Sorry to have ignored you all this time. I see you sitting there. And
no worries.
Just trying to get everything.
Callers got to come first.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Charging and the Ford Charge Angels program, who I encountered for the first time yesterday.
Oh, yes. I saw a picture of one. How can they? Well, I'll let you tell us all about it. I think that's a really interesting idea. I drove the Mini today to work because Lisa wanted the longer distance of the Mach-E.
I'm driving one today too.
It's cute. You got the new 2023, huh?
2022. Yeah, current one. Same color as Lisa's, the chili red.
Oh, it's nice. Yes.
Yeah.
She calls her chili. Ours calls hers pepper. All right, hang on. Here we go. Hey, we'll have more of the Tech Guy Show in just a bit, but first a word from our sponsor, IT Pro TV. Man, the world of IT is fascinating. It's huge. It's always changing. So where do you start to get updated certs, to get the training you need? Well, whether you're a seasoned IT professional or just getting started, IT Pro TV is the online learning IT platform you need to advance your skills in IT. They're amazing. I've known these guys, Tim and Don, since they started the company. They have 7 studios filming Monday through Friday. That means they're constantly putting out new content. Why? Because it's an ever-changing world. 5,800 hours of incredible content to help you get the certs you need, to get the job you want, to get new skills, to get a better job, to recertify. All the content, every vendor, every skill. Their courses go from studio to course library in 24 hours, so you're getting the freshest possible content. I love it that they divide it all up into 20 to 30-minute chunks, so it's really easy to watch an episode on your lunch break or in between one thing and another, which is nice because you can slowly build up your skill level without killing yourself. They make sure you're prepared for your exams with practice exams, virtual labs. You don't even need a Windows machine, just a HTML5 browser, and you can set up Windows servers and Windows clients. And I mean, it's amazing. I really like it because if you do something wrong, which I always do, you close the tab and it's all gone. You start again tomorrow. Best part about IT Pro TV is you can learn and get certified on your schedule. And by the way, and I know you don't go to IT Pro TV to be entertained. You go to learn, but it is entertaining. And I'll tell you why that's important. You're going to learn more, learn faster, and you're going to be more likely to spend the time you need if they make it fun. And they do. You're going to love IT Pro TV. This month, Linux Month. Yay at IT Pro TV. They've got a webinar, Don Pizzette and Daniel Lowry, April 7th. That's just a few days away. Choosing the right Linux distro in 2022. I'll be watching that for sure. The Linux Free Weekend is coming up April 23rd and 24th. That means they'll have a bunch of Linux courses for free. You won't want to miss that. Actually, there's 138 hours of Linux training at IT Pro TV. Linux shell scripting basics. See, that's great for everybody, right? LPIC2 Linux Engineer, Linux Command Line, so many more. And if you have an IT team, don't forget IT Pro TV is there for you too. Great training for individuals, great training for teams too. A great way to keep your team up to date, learning the skills you need for the job they have to do. It's a tough job, but IT Pro TV is a great partner. IT Pro TV, they've got consumer plans, they've got business plans. Check them out at itpro.tv/twit. You will get an additional 30% off your subscription as long as you stay active when you use the code TWIT30. That's like lifetime, right? TWIT30, because you'll always want to be an IT Pro TV member. itpro.tv/twit. Use the offer code TWIT30 for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career. Enjoy the journey. We love these guys. You will love them too. If it's time to get serious about IT, itpro.tv/twit. We thank them so much for their support of the Tech Guy Show. And now, on we go. It's time for the Car Guy. Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. His podcast, Wheel Bearings, is a must for car fans, and he joins us every week to talk about automotive technology. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. Good to be back. I joined you on Twit later last Sunday afternoon.
We missed you last week on the radio show.
I was absent. I was in transit on my way from San Diego Airport to Encinitas to drive the new 2023 Toyota BZ4X, which is Toyota's first purpose-built electric vehicle. It's a compact crossover. It's roughly the size of a Toyota RAV4. But I can't tell you anything about my driving impressions until April 12th. It's embargoed until then.
It's
give everybody a chance to drive it.
The interesting thing about reporting and reviewing is for years, if you wrote for a magazine, you would get stuff 3 months ahead of time because magazines took so long to come out that they would have to show you and then say, okay, but you have to pretend you haven't seen it until it's released. And that time is shortened because nowadays with the internet publishing, and most people are internet publishing, whether it's podcasts or videos or blogs, is overnight. But still, the longer embargoes persist. I guess they just want to show everybody the BZ4X first.
Well, in this case, like in the case of first drives for new vehicles, they usually have multiple waves because they have a limited number of vehicles. Yeah. And so they bring in multiple groups of people to drive it.
There's a lot of
and they want to give everybody a fair chance.
There's a lot.
Yeah, so there's a lot of outlets out there. Yeah, so in order to give everybody a fair chance, they say, okay, they pick a date, sometime after the final wave. Sometimes it's like the day after the last group drives it. Sometimes it's a week later, which is about what this one is.
That's not too bad.
Then everybody gets to publish at that time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad Toyota's finally doing an all-electric. They were the last, one of the last to go, kicking and screaming. I think they thought hydrogen fuel cells were going to be the future. They made those cars. And, of course, they were early on with the hybrids, with the Prius. Mm-hmm. So
and they still dominate the hybrid market. Sure. They sell more hybrids than anybody.
Yeah.
And those hybrids are great. They get incredible fuel economy. And these days, when the gas can be upwards of $6 a gallon in California and certainly upwards of $4 a gallon here in Michigan, having a car that gets 40, 45, 50 miles per gallon with a hybrid, is a huge benefit. So
today we're going to talk about charging. I see you have a charger right behind you, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So one of the benefits of hybrids, of course, is you have electrification added as a component of the propulsion, but you don't have to plug it in unless, of course, you have a plug-in hybrid, which is kind of a hybrid between a hybrid and a battery electric vehicle.
It's a double hybrid.
It's a hybrid with a bigger battery, so you can plug it in. And I actually drove a new one of those last week as well, which was the Jeep Grand Cherokee plug-in hybrid, but can't talk about that one yet either. This week here at home, I'm driving a battery electric vehicle. It's the 2022 Mini Cooper SE, which is the same car that you drove to work today. It's normally your wife's car that she drives.
Peppy little chili pepper. I love it.
It is a fun little car to drive. It doesn't have a whole lot of range, but
in fact, I depleted the battery by 25% driving the 2 miles to work. I think that was a mistake, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you weren't such a lead foot, Leo,
I do have it
you
set
could probably
on
go a little farther
on the peppiest setting. You can choose how eco it is, and I guess I'm not very.
But, after going out and doing some range testing yesterday, I stopped by my neighborhood Electrify America station, which is about a 10-minute walk here from my house, to put some juice in it. And usually this particular station gets little or no use, and I was surprised yesterday when I pulled in. There were 2 other EVs parked there, and within a few minutes after my arrival, a 4th arrived. So that's the first time I've ever seen 4 EVs all charging there at the same time. What was particularly interesting, though, is that one of them was a Mustang Mach-E, which if you're watching the video stream, you can see it over my shoulder, with some interesting graphics on it. It says Ford Charge Angels on the door. And this is a program that Ford launched last fall, back in October when I was out in your neck of the woods driving the Mach-E GT. I spoke with Darren Palmer, who you've met. He's the general manager of electric vehicles at Ford. We talked about the Charge Angels program, and this is something that Ford kicked off after they launched the Mach-E last year and started getting complaints from a lot of customers in some parts of the country that they were going to Electrify America stations and other charging stations, and they weren't working.
And this has been frustrating. It's so frustrating.
This has been an all too common problem with a lot of charging networks is lack of reliability.
Well,
So
and
Ford-
some of them get vandalized. I'm sorry to say,
Yeah.
there are a lot of gas vehicle owners who somehow are affronted about electrified vehicles and literally do all sorts of vandalism to these things, which is terrible.
Yeah, I think that's less common. You know, I mean, a more common issue is just parking their internal
parked
combustion
there.
vehicles in front of chargers
I've
so you
had
can't get to
people
them.
roll coal in front of me, you know, as a way to show their disrespect for electric vehicles. It's come on, knock it off, guys.
Yeah. But what Ford did after they started getting complaints from customers is that one thing they did was they rolled out a software update to the Mach-E, and it's going into all their other EVs as well, which uses the connectivity in the vehicle, the telematics in the vehicle. When you go plug in your Mach-E or any other Ford vehicle to a public charger, then it will monitor if it was able to successfully initiate a charging session. Anytime that it doesn't successfully initiate a charging session within a time limit, it captures all that data, sends it back to Ford, lets them know, because Ford in their Blue Oval Charge Network, where they aggregate a whole bunch, like more than 70,000 chargers from multiple networks, and have that information in their navigation, they'll take that charger off the network so that it won't guide people to that charger if there was a problem with it. But the other component of this is they have the Charge Angels, which are groups of technicians that go out to all the public chargers, all those 70,000 plus public chargers, and they test them, and they gather a bunch of data. They plug them in, make sure it initiates correctly, make sure the billing system is working correctly, measure how fast it charges, and capture all kinds of other data. And so they're looking for any chargers that might not be working up to snuff. When they find any that aren't working correctly, they send that information out to the owner of that particular charge station and make sure to get it fixed. And until it's corrected, again, they take it out of their recommended chargers to go to. So they won't direct drivers to go to those charging stations. And I was talking with the technicians. She said, yeah, they drive around. This particular station has 6 charging bays, and they were testing all 6 of them. And one of them I already knew was actually out of order because I tried to use it a few days ago, and it was still giving the same network error. So only 5 of the 6 were working. But it's good to see manufacturers starting to do stuff like this to make the charging experience more reliable for customers. Because if they want to sell millions of EVs a year, this is the sort of thing they need to do.
Exactly. It's in their own interest. And, of course, they don't own Electrify America. In fact, it's kind of a competitor's effort, right? It's Audi VW.
It's owned by Volkswagen. It was created as part of the settlement for the Dieselgate scandal.
Right. How funny is that? But it is important. And I think some of the range anxiety and all of that is first-time EV buyers are a little more worried than they need to be about all of that. But still, you got to make sure that they feel reassured or they won't buy the vehicles. So I think that's a good thing. I appreciate it. Are charging stations abnormally vulnerable? Are they hard to keep working? Is that the problem?
I think the problem is more that in most cases they're unattended. They're not like gas stations.
Yeah, there's nobody there. Sam Abuelsamid, thank you. Principal Researcher, Guidehouse Insights, Wheelbearings.media. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Should never ask a question
in the last 20 seconds.
Last 20 seconds. Don't. All righty. So, John, this is actually working quite well. I guess maybe I won't buy a NUC. We'll at least we can use this for the time being. And
what do you got there now?
Oh, he's cannibalized Micah's setup. Yeah. Okay. So, no. We're getting those cables tomorrow. We'll see if those fix it. I know I'm still willing to buy a NUC. They're not that expensive. All right. Your time is now, Sam. So I'll turn off this guy talking in the background, and I'll let you take over. Oh, I don't have a clock for you yet. I haven't put that on here.
Okay.
So I'll just...
So, yeah, to to elaborate on your last question there, yeah, the challenge is that in a lot of cases, unlike a gas station where there's somebody working there that knows if can see if there's a problem with one or more of the pumps, these charging stations are usually located in the parking lot of a grocery store or some other location where there's nobody around to keep an eye on them, and the other part of the problem has been the business. Up until now, it's a classic chicken and egg scenario where charging networks, have tried to build out, chargers, but there haven't been enough EVs to get enough utilization of these things, so they haven't been able to make money, and it's hard to justify spending the money on the maintenance and monitoring of these things and servicing of these things if you're already losing a lot of money, and so hopefully now that the sales of EVs are really starting to pick up. And we're getting more utilization. As I said, this is the first time I've ever seen more than one other EV at this station. In fact, when I was there earlier in the week, there was somebody driving a new Kia EV6 there that was pulled in to charge it while I was charging the Mini. And it turns out I was chatting with him. Turns out he was an engineer from Mitsubishi, and they were benchmarking the new Kia EV6.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but seeing three other EVs there when I got there yesterday, and when one of them pulled up within a few minutes, another one showed up. So we had four going, out of the 6 bays simultaneously yesterday. So it's good to see they're starting to gain some traction with these things.
Yeah,
and hopefully that will provide enough revenue for these companies that they can actually start. Between that and being held accountable by manufacturers and customers. That's the other thing. If you're a customer, even if you're not driving a Ford that will automatically notify them, if you have a problem with it, don't just go off and use a different charger. Find another charger so you can get your vehicle charged. But while you're waiting for it to charge, take a couple of minutes and make sure that you contact the operator of that charging station, whether it's EVgo or ChargePoint or Electrify America or Blink or whoever it might be, and let them know that there's a problem, because they honestly might not be aware that there's a problem there. So pay it forward for the rest of the community, and hopefully if everybody does this, we'll get these things being more reliable. So let's take a look at the chat here.
Yeah, like all the apps like ChargePoint and everything have that feature, which makes it very easy to report a down thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and assuming you're using the apps, in some cases, you might not be using the app. You might just, tap your credit card or your debit card on there to pay. But yeah, take the time and make sure you report it if you have a problem. So let's see. Gray Wolf, 600-mile range and 10-minute fill. Until then, gasoline. That's when you consider the way most people actually drive. It's over 80% of people drive less than 40 miles a day. Almost nobody actually needs a 600-mile range, and if you can have at least 250, 300 miles of range, then that's going to be more than enough for almost everybody. Very few people actually need that 600-mile range, because to get that 600-mile range, you need a very large battery, which adds a lot of weight and a lot of cost. And you end up with something. It becomes a vicious cycle, and you end up with something like the Hummer EV that has a 247 kilowatt hour battery pack that weighs almost 3,000 pounds just for the battery. The battery in that Hummer weighs more than my wife's Honda Civic. So until the battery chemistry gets to the point where we can do that, that's not realistic. But if you have 300 miles of range, that's good enough for almost everything everybody needs to do. And we are actually getting to the point of, rapid filling. The Kia EV6 I mentioned and the Hyundai Ionic 5, pair of new EVs from Hyundai and Kia. Those things will charge from 10 to 80% state of charge in 18 minutes. So we're getting there pretty quickly. And there are other vehicles with 270 kilowatt charging capability, like the Audi e-tron GT and Porsche Taycan, and there's a lot more coming to market that have this ultra fast charging capability. So we're certainly getting down in the sub 20-minute range. And if you can do that, for example, when you go do your grocery shopping, you're going to be in the grocery store for at least 20 minutes anyway.
What a day for a tech guy. Let's answer your calls. 8888 Ask Leo. Mark on the line from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay, now we've got all the rapids. We just need Little Rapids. We'll be set. Hi, Mark.
Yeah. Hey, Leo. I don't think there is a Little Rapids. There's an Elk Rapids, though.
Well, they got to work on it, okay? Just work on it. What can we... Actually, I'm going to ask Sam to stick around. Don't leave yet, Sam, because I think you have a question for him, Mark.
I do, indeed. Let me tell you my situation, and I want to go over a little scenario and hopefully spark a conversation. I am a right leg above knee amputee. In my current situation, I'm not able to use a prosthesis, so I'm in a wheelchair all the time. I can get out of the house, my wheelchair to the car, get into the car, but then the wheelchair needs to be put into the trunk.
Right.
My amazing wife ends up having to do that. We're both in our 60s, and I can't for the life of me find anything in the market world or from one of the manufacturers that would help with that situation. So I just wanted to spark a little conversation about what are automobile manufacturers doing to help accessibility of their product.
Of course, I have a friend who drives with hand controls. So I think that's not an aftermarket, I imagine, Sam, right? You'd have to.
Those are all aftermarket.
They are. Okay.
None of the manufacturers build vehicles with hand controls or accessibility from the factory.
So it's all after the fact. Okay.
But
and then there's also wheelchair lifts. There's all sorts of ways of getting. I've seen individuals all alone get their wheelchair into the car and then get in the. I don't know how they do it. I mean, it's a feat, but I think there are ways to do that.
Yeah, the manufacturers also do work with some of these third-party firms, to help them with the engineering to do conversions, to add hand controls or to add ramp systems. One of the things you'll find, for example, is quite a few, pretty much all of the minivans on the market, the Chrysler Pacifica, the Toyota Sienna, the Honda Odyssey, those are all available with wheelchair accessibility. For example, the Pacifica, in fact, the Pacifica plug-in hybrid is the only plug-in hybrid you can get that is wheelchair accessible.
It's a van, makes sense, because you could have a ramp that comes out. You could roll up the ramp and then go into the driver's seat and all of that stuff.
The ramp actually comes down from
But you're probably not in the market for a new car at this point, Mark, or are you?
No, not at all. And that type of equipment is very expensive.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
One option, there, depending on the type of wheelchair you have, I have seen, where, for example, you can have something. You can have a trailer hitch on the back, and essentially a little platform that hangs off the trailer hitch to put a wheelchair or a scooter, depending on what kind of equipment you're using, on the back. That would be mounted externally, so it would be out in the environment. So I don't know if that's something you necessarily want to use, or if finding. I think I have seen. Cases, there's equipment where you can have basically a lift assist. If you've got a conventional wheelchair that you're going to fold up and put in the trunk of the car, to help lift that up. And I'm pretty sure there's something out there. I'm pretty sure I've seen something like that. I'm
going to send you also to at least one website that we found, disability-cars.com. I don't think they're in the U.S., but because it looks like they have a British number. But at least they would show you the kinds of they do vehicle conversions, and so I imagine, they're unfortunately in the U.K., but I'm sure there are others. But this would give you an idea, at least, of the kinds of things that can be done, including wheelchair lifts and automatic wheelchair stowage and things like that.
I've really beat the bushes around here trying to find something like that just to get that wheelchair. It is a fold-up wheelchair into the trunk, and I really can't find anything.
I've seen things that do it, yeah. Because if you can fold it small enough to get into the trunk. So there's also mobilityworks.com. That's a U.S. company that does make a variety of wheelchair stowage or scooter stowage even things. And one of the things they have, which is kind of cool, is like Sam was describing, basically a trailer hitch that you roll up onto, and then it lifts the wheelchair up, and you just drive with the wheelchair behind you, which is kind of cool. So that would be, I presume, if your car has a trailer hitch, an easier thing to do. So that's mobilityworks.com, another company that does this kind of thing for stowage of wheelchairs. That's your primary interest. You can drive, but you just want to get somewhere to put the wheelchair.
I can't do anything with the wheelchair. My wife has to do it, and I'd love to, if we could make her life a lot easier doing that.
Here's the chat room's going crazy with links. There's chairinstitute.com, how to transport a wheelchair. There's Mobility Works. I mentioned them. TheMobilityResource.com. We'll put all of these in the show notes so that you can peruse them at your leisure, because there's quite a few. Yeah.
Perfect. That sounds great. Any help that you can offer, I'll certainly take.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question.
I wish the manufacturers would do a little more.
Well, actually, Ford has an accessibility program. So they are, I think, trying to take this on a little bit. In fact, they're making...
Yeah, and as I said, all of the manufacturers have programs to work with these third-party upfitters,
right?
To install, to help them with the engineering, figure out where are the places to mount, if you need to do any cutting or anything, to figure out the places to do that safely. So they do have programs. They just don't do it internally, but they do collaborate with these third-party providers.
This is Ford's wheelchair lift they put on the back of looks like a Fiesta or
That's
something.
a Ford Edge.
Oh, a Ford Edge, okay. And it's just really a towing rig that you have folded up, just like you'd have a bicycle rack, except it's for wheelchairs. It's kind of cool, and it will automatically lower. You can actually roll onto it. So this is Ford's page for aftermarket additions, so that they work with people and so forth.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That one looks like it's more for a powered chair.
Yeah, I think a lot of these are for scooters and power chairs. Exactly. Yeah, but I mean, you could roll up onto it, by hand, and then drag it along with you. Anyway, I'm glad for the call, and I'm glad, Sam, that you were here. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're going to take a break. Come back with more right after this. I'm trying to find you a clock. One of our chatters a while ago wrote a web-based show clock, and I wish I'd saved the URL because I could put it in the window for you. But
what's the time for the end of the segment? But
6:30 or 6:30. So yeah, you have once we get to 06, wrap it.
Okay.
And if I can find that, I will put it in.
All right. So going back to the chat here, somebody mentioned that Visa has changed the rules for gas stations to avoid the $125 pump limit. So one of the things that credit card companies do is they have graduated fees, transaction fees, depending on how big the transaction is. And they've previously, for Visa, one of those thresholds was at $125. So anything over that, they had higher transaction fees for the merchant. And they have changed the rules for gas stations to avoid that, since many more people are now having to pay over $125 to fill their tank, which is very unfortunate. Thankfully, neither of my cars have a fuel tank that big that that's not a problem for me. Let's see. Chris S1563 was saying not making money. Ask the already gouging auto manufacturers, $55,000 for a Mach-E. So Chris, I was actually referring to the charging network providers, the companies like ChargePoint, Electrify America, EVgo. They are losing money because it does cost a lot of money to install EV charging infrastructure, to put it in, maintain it, and until now, the projections from most of the projections for EV adoption over the past decade have been, let's say, optimistic. We have not reached the kinds of numbers that had been projected in the early part of the last decade in terms of the number of EVs on the road. And so as a result, the utilization of these chargers has not been as high as they would have expected. So they are, in fact, losing money. As for the manufacturers, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're gouging all that much. Yes, $55,000 is not cheap for a Mach-E, but it does cost more to build EVs currently still than it does to build gas engine vehicles, and a big part of that is the battery. The battery accounts for about 1/3 of the cost of a typical EV. And in some cases even more. And one of the things we've seen over the last year, particularly over the last several months, is a real run-up in the commodity prices for some of the key metals that have to go into batteries, especially nickel. Since the start of the war in Ukraine, the price of nickel, which significant, about 10% of the world's nickel supply is sourced from Russia. The price of nickel more than doubled, and they actually had to suspend trading on the spot market for nickel. And over the past year, the price of lithium has increased fivefold. And to convert everything over to EVs, we're going to have to produce a lot more of these key metals and also use other kinds of materials as well for batteries, and also rapidly increase recycling. Up until now, we haven't been able to do much battery recycling because, for the same reason, we haven't had as many EVs as we would have liked, which means that we haven't had as many EVs reach end of life, so there's not many batteries to recycle. As the number of EVs grows, we will have dramatically more recycling. Companies like Redwood Materials and Li-Cycle and several others are cranking up their recycling efforts. Redwood, which was started by J.B. Straubel, the former CTO of Tesla, is already producing. They're recycling batteries and extracting the key raw materials for battery production. They're already producing about 6 gigawatt hour, enough materials for 6 gigawatt hours a year of battery production. By 2025, they expect that to be 100 gigawatt hours a year, and by 2030, 500 gigawatt hours a year. So they're going to be a key source of these materials, so we don't have to continue to mine so much of these materials. Let's see. TechDino says used EV autos should be coming around by now. There are used EVs on the market. There's just not that many of them. But certainly cars like the first generation Nissan Leaf, the older Teslas, the Fiat 500e. Most of those sold in relatively small volumes, but they are available, and you can actually get some pretty decent deals on some of them, especially if you don't need a really longer range EV. If you can get by with a car that does 80 to 100 miles of range on a charge, which for most urban commuting is probably more than sufficient if you have access to charging at home, which is another key problem is having access to off-street parking. A lot of times if you live in a city, even if you live in a single-family home, you may not have a driveway or a garage where you can pull into and charge. So you may still be relying on public charging infrastructure or workplace charging. So that is a challenge. Let's see. Why don't gas stations add electric stations? From Ed Hockey, they are adding. A lot of gas stations are adding EV charging stations. This is one of the places where we're seeing more EV charging stations being installed. In fact, both Shell and BP have made big investments. They've acquired EV charging networks in Europe and the UK, where EV adoption is much higher than it is here in North America. and they are putting in EV chargers, at their like large banks of EV chargers at many of their gas stations. So we will see that undoubtedly happening here as well. I know here in my area where I live, there's at least a half a dozen gas stations I know of that have, in most cases, just one charger, but they are doing this, and this will help. And chargers are going to need to go into all kinds of places. But especially, areas like gas stations where perhaps they might have a convenience store or a fast food restaurant or something, where you can stop, grab a snack, grab some lunch, whatever. Let's see, what else? Let's see. Web 7341 asks, what EV would you buy now? It depends a lot on what your needs are. But I think for most people, something that gets in the in a range of 250 to 300 miles is going to be good for most people, and there are a number of good options out there right now already. I mentioned the Hyundai Ionic 5 is a great choice. It's a fantastic vehicle. The Kia EV6, same platform, different design. They both can get over 300 miles of electric range, and they start at just over $40,000 before the tax credits. Let's see, the Toyota BZ4X and the Subaru Solterra are going to be hitting the market in the coming weeks. I think this week or next, Ford is going to start production on the F-150 Lightning, we're going to be seeing a lot more coming to market over the next 12 months. As of November of last year, we had 20 different EV nameplates available for sale in the U.S. By this fall, we should have about 40. And by next year, by the end of 2023, that should be close to double again, about 75 to 80. So you're going to have a lot more choices at a lot more price points and different form factors depending on what your needs and wants are in a vehicle. Let's see, how much money to charge EVs? That varies a lot for level 2 AC charging. That in many cases, that's often free. You can find those sometimes at grocery stores and parking garages. They don't charge anything for it. For DC charging, it's a little more expensive. It can run, depending on where you are, from 30 to 40 cents per kilowatt hour.
It's totally the local cost of power, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I think only used a remote charger a couple of times in all my years of EVs because you charge at home at night. It's really rare that you need this.
At home, I'm not sure. I can't remember what the current rates are in California, but around here, it's about 12 cents a kilowatt hour for charging. So it's a fraction of what you're going to pay for gas.
Thank you, Sam. Have a great week.
Thank you, Leo. I'll talk to you next week.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk high tech. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you can still call, but you need to, use Skype or something like that to reach us. 888-827-5536. Still should be free to call. Website, techguylabs.com. On the line, Bob from Newington, Connecticut. Hello, Bob.
Hi, Leo. Pleasure talking to you.
Nice to talk to you. Welcome.
Say, Leo, I own a 27-inch iMac, and it's 6 years old, and I'm looking to upgrade it to a newer model. And I'm kind of disappointed that Apple didn't come out and release a new 27 iMacs that everyone was waiting for. And the way they got around it is that I guess you got to purchase their 27-inch monitor.
You don't really have to. You can buy any old monitor you want. In fact, Samsung, seeing an opportunity, just announced lower cost and I think better monitors than the Apple Studio display that are very similar to an iMac. I think it's pretty clear that Samsung's thinking, okay, guys, buy a Mac Studio and this monitor. But is the Mac Studio really their iMac? I've heard rumors in both directions. When it first came out, people said, yeah, Apple has just decided to deconstruct the iMac, take it apart, which in a way I like, because I like being able to choose any kind of monitor I want instead of having to use, as good as the Apple monitors are. You know, in fact, it's kind of sad for me because we just kind of obsoleted a couple of iMacs for work because they were from 2014. They couldn't use the latest operating system, macOS Monterey. And so I had to replace them. And it was a little frustrating because the monitors are still great, you know. So you're obsoleting equipment that isn't necessarily obsolete. That always bothers me. So, but there is also a rumor that Apple is not discontinuing the iMac and that they will at some point announce another iMac. So, yeah, I know it's confusing. I mean, I wasn't going to buy a 24 because, like you, I like the larger screen. In fact, at the time, the rumors was they'll have a 27-inch sized computer iMac that'll have a 30-inch display because of no bezels, because the bezels are, as you know, pretty big on the current iMacs, the 27-inch iMacs. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you. If you really need a new iMac, I think it's probably a good idea either to look at a Mac Mini for the 2020 Mac M1 Minis. That's what I replaced my old iMac with. Or a Mac Studio if you want to spend a little more and get a little more oomph. The thing that really is important to remember, and Apple is so good at marketing that I think they've confused a lot of us. But the thing that's important to remember is that the 2020 M1s, the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro 13-inch, and Mac Mini, are the same chip running at the same clock speed as these fancy, ultra-expensive M1 Ultra Studios. The difference is the number of additional cores and GPUs. For most people, the Mac Mini is going to be just as fast, and I will testify that. My wife has an M1 Ultra Studio. I have an M1 Max Studio, and here sitting in front of me an M1 from 2020. They're all, for the things I do, web browsing, email, the same. There's no speed difference. It's only when you're doing things like video editing or heavy-duty 3D design that it's going to make a difference at all.
Do you think they still have, and I'm still able to get the 27-inch iMac with the i5 processor?
I would not. Okay. I honestly think it's a mistake to buy an Intel Mac at this point.
Yep, that's a reason why I called.
Yeah.
I was still kind of torn. Should I go back to the 24-inch that they have out, or...
I think those 24 inches are beautiful, but seriously, you could go out, get a $700 Mac Mini. I would get the 16 megabytes of RAM, I think more than the 8. And, you have to decide how big a hard drive you want. And then just get a standalone display. You can get a beautiful display, LG ultrafine display, for half what Apple's charging for the Studio. The Studio display is overpriced, I think. And actually not great technology. I think Apple blew it on that one.
I think he talked me into the Mac Mini, and
I think you'd be very happy. The only issue, and I'm having it, and people have tuned in before the show, were watching me tear my hair out. It's tricky to run more than one display. But if you're going to use it like an iMac, it's, one display, the Mac Mini, it's fantastic. It lacks some ports, so you'll probably be buying a dock of some kind to give it additional ports.
I even called Apple to see if I could use my monitor with the Mac, the iMac.
Yeah.
And they said, it's got to be an older vintage. I said, what are you talking about?
so you can't.
Sorry.
They had in the older iMacs a target display mode that would let you just use the display with another computer. They took that out. Yeah, and so you don't have the vintage Mac that they're talking about.
Correct.
And you could use it with a second monitor. So I was using the iMac with two monitors. That's not a big deal. But yeah, you can't use the iMac monitor by itself. You know what? I think probably you could take it apart. Well, maybe not. They put some additional processing in that extra monitor for the 5K. So maybe not. That's probably why not. Yeah, I think that's why I personally was not going to buy another iMac. I like the idea of buying a computer and display separately. And then you can upgrade one or the other as needed. You can repair one or the other as needed. It just seems like it's not as pretty on your desk. Agreed. And if looks are what you're looking for, then the 24-inch iMacs are very, very pretty. They come in colors. But if what you want is a capable system, I think it's better to buy separates.
Well, me personally, Leo, I've had so many problems with Windows PC-based computers, and I've never had a problem with this iMac. And never had to buy oh, geez, that slipped my mind now. You have to buy it every year to.
The extended warranty, you mean, or the software updates?
Yeah. Never had to purchase anything from Apple. Plus service.
Take a look if you're kind of looking for that iMac look. Just take a look at. They are not shipping yet, but Samsung's new M8 monitor series, which, as far as I'm concerned, looks like an iMac, and I think it's kind of designed for putting a little Mac Mini right there on the stand, and it would be an iMac, they just be separates. And it goes up to 32 inches, which is, I think, what you want with a very tiny bezel. You can get a camera on it. I think this is Samsung saying, hold my beer. We could do this, Apple, and coming up with something that looks pretty much like an iMac. I think it's kind of funny.
Check that out.
Yeah, it's the M8. I think that they said they'll be shipping next month, I think they said. Yeah. But it's pretty. Anyway, it also maybe end up being more expensive than you need. That's the beauty of separating the monitor from the computer. You can get very nice 4K monitors now for $300. Why pay $1,500 for the 5K Mac Studio display? I just don't get it. And honestly, I don't need 5K. 4K is just fine. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, I appreciate all the information, and I got some options for me.
Yes, you do. Hey, thanks for calling. I appreciate it. Not to knock the studios. I think I got a Mac Studio for my wife to replace her iMac, a Mac Studio for me in my office. They're quite nice. But when I was getting one for the actual studio here, I don't need a Mac Studio. I'm fine with an M1 Mac, and we're using it right now. It works pretty well. I ended up getting a Samsung display for it, a 4K display. It works great. 8888 Ask Leo, except for that 2-display thing, but we'll figure that out. 888-827-5536. More of your calls coming up. Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, is on deck, standing in the wings. He'll be here in about 15. Leo Laporte, the big band tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. On we go with the show to Cameron in Nashville, Tennessee. Hi, Cameron.
Hey, Leo. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
What's up?
Yeah, so first off, longtime fan. I'm 31, and I started watching you back in the Screensaver Tech TV days. So
when you were a little tiny child.
That's right.
A little boy. And have I made a geek out of you?
Yeah, most definitely. Software engineer. So
nice.
All those days with you and Kevin Rose were definitely formative for me.
That's great. You were obviously into computers, and that's how you found us in the first place. But that's great.
Oh, yeah.
So you work as a software engineer. What kind of stuff do you do?
I'm in the fintech industry.
Oh, very hot right now. Financial, very hot. Do you are you writing little derivatives programs, or are you writing front ends, back ends? What kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm full stack.
Full stack. Nice.
Yes, sir. Front end, back end.
Full stack, for those who don't know, means when you go to a website, you've got the front end, which is the stuff you see, all of stuff on top of it. But behind the scenes, there's databases, there's code. That's the back end. Full stack developer does it all. You do it all. Which means a jack of all trades, which means you're in great demand because, of course, everybody wants that. Well, what can I do for you today, Cameron?
Yeah, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on blockchain technology and the push for Web3 and decentralization. yeah, just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that and like where do you think that's going to go in the future?
So I like to separate the underlying technology, blockchain, things like that, from the way it's being applied, because there's clearly value in the idea of blockchain. What blockchain is essentially, I know you know this, but for everybody listening, sometimes I use the phrase decentralized ledger. You know, when you have a bank account, in the old days, there'd be a clerk writing in a book everything you put in, everything you took out. That book is called a ledger. Nowadays, obviously, there's no clerk and the ledger is computerized, but it's the same idea. The bank keeps track of credits, debits, as your money moves around. But that's very centralized. What if you could have a ledger that keeps track of your money and everybody else's, but that's controlled by no one, that's spread out to everybody who uses it? That's blockchain. And its first instance of this was Bitcoin, where if you get a Bitcoin wallet and you host it on your computer, you will download the entire blockchain, hundreds of gigabytes. You don't have to keep it forever. You can prune it, but it's a big ledger. And what's cool about that is every single person who has a Bitcoin wallet can have a copy of that ledger. And that means there's no central control, there's nobody in charge, and there is no question about the transactions because everybody agrees. They all have the same central source, non-decentralized source of truth. So I think that technology is fascinating. It's being used in a variety of ways. It makes a lot of sense. But then I see people building on top of that in ways that I don't think necessarily are great. Because unfortunately, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, are widely used, as far as I'm concerned, to scam people. They're speculative vehicles. So people buy Bitcoin not because there's any intrinsic value to it, or even you can use it to buy a pizza or a car. You can sometimes, sort of, but the price of the Bitcoin varies so much you probably don't want to. Really, when you buy Bitcoin, you're buying it hoping that you're buying low, and at some point somebody down the road will buy it from you for a lot more and you'll make money. So it's a speculative currency. NFTs, the same thing. Artists are getting some money from making an NFT out of their art. That's great. You'd be better off just giving them $1 because between gas fees, the cost of creating the NFT and then creating the transactions, a lot of that money spins off to the people who are maintaining the ledger, the blockchain. And frankly, most of the people buying NFTs, they're not buying Bored Apes or zombies because they love them, they're cool, and they can put them on their wall. They're buying them because they think down the road they'll be worth more. So it's a speculative market. I'm not a fan of that. I think a lot of people will be hurt by that in the long run. Web3 is interesting. So the idea of Web3 is, what if instead of the web being centralized on a bunch of servers and pretty much dominated by a handful of big companies, what if it were decentralized, everybody had a server, it were running on blockchain, and no one could control it? That's an interesting idea. It's a good idea. Oddly enough, the people behind it are big venture capital firms like Andreessen Horowitz. And they're behind it, I think, because they're going to make a lot of money on it, which sounds to me like it's centralized. So I have some qualms about Web3 as well. The technology, it's cool. If I were you, you're a smart guy, obviously, I would learn as much as I could about blockchain. I would find out all about it. But I don't think the world is going to be improved by Bitcoin, NFTs, or Web3. I think that it's, for the most part, it's people trying to make money off of other people. Now, you probably disagree with me, but that's my opinion.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like 99% of that stuff is a Beanie Baby.
Yeah, it's Beanie Babies
right now, right?
Yeah, it's Beanie Babies. Some people bought Beanie Babies. I did, for my kids, because they loved them. And they take them out of the box, and they play with them, and they immediately destroy all the value. Some people bought them, put them on the shelf in the box with the tags, thinking they were going to make more money. By the way, they almost all lost their shirts. So maybe Bitcoin's a better buy. Although if you bought it at $50,000, you're underwater. If you bought it at $5, you're in good shape. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. So I don't know. It remains to be seen how this stuff gets used well. The problem is when there's money involved, that's when the scammers and the the bad guys get involved, and often that they really ruin the an ecosystem for everybody else. I feel like that's kind of what's happened to crypto, unfortunately. And boy, look at all the NFT thefts. Look at the problems with DAOs. Look at the problems with cryptocurrency thefts. It's an issue. And I think the single most biggest issue with crypto, especially Bitcoin, is its volatility. You hold a Bitcoin, you don't know what it's worth from one day to the next. That's not what you want with a currency. You want a stable currency, and there are stable coins out there that might end up being. In fact, I think a lot of governments will end up adopting stable coin as a form of currency. U.S. is looking at digital currency. Frankly, these days we are digital, right? How much do you use cash for these days? Almost all of it is bits being sent to and from. There's no actual coinage involved. Cameron, I'm running out of time, and I'm sorry I didn't give you a chance to say what you like about it. But I'll tell you what, let's talk off the air, and we will take some more calls. And Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, coming up right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's time once again for our photo guy, my personal photo sensei. Chris Marquardt is here from sensei.photo. Joins us every week to help us get better pictures with our cameras, whether it's our camera phones or our fancy Leica M11 SLRs, rangefinders. Hello, Chris.
Hi there.
You'll be happy to know that in the intervening week, I did not spend a penny on camera gear, did not buy the M11. Was very tempted.
Is that progress?
That's progress. Absolutely.
Congratulations then.
I finally learned I'm not going to take better pictures because I have a better camera.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out. I really had to go through a lot of cameras to get to the point where I say, you know what? I'm going to wait at least for one more year till I go mirrorless.
Yeah.
It's not going to help me.
No. You have, though, each week helped me a lot by talking about different elements in photography, ways of thinking and so forth. That really helps more than anything because, let's face it, it's about the photographer, not the camera.
It is, yes.
Today, we're going to talk about, amplifiers? Is this a stereo segment here?
So sort of. So there's this concept, and this goes back to the basics of composition, of how to put a picture together that is appealing, that people like to look at. And one of the components that we talk about here is the subject, the key player in a photo. And I sound like a broken record, but a photo with a clear subject is typically a better photo. So how do you achieve that? And the amplifier comes in because there are things that you can put in a photo, or the ways you can compose a photo to amplify the subject, to give the subject a bit more of a prominent place in a photo. So I have gone on my favorite photo platform on Flickr and have chosen a few pictures that I want to talk about. So Leo, which of those shipping containers is the one that piques your interest?
The subject is clearly blue here because the rest are all red, right?
Right. We're looking at the odd one out. That is one way to amplify your subject, by having a lot of the same and then having one that sticks out. In this case, it's 3 red and 1 blue. Shipping container. There's no doubt about which one you are going to be drawn to. So you can use that to tell a story. Another example here, some pavement with a plant growing out. Everything's gray apart from that nice juicy green plant. So that one is immediately the subject because it's the one thing in the photo that is different.
So color can make something the subject.
Color or just the shape in this case. I mean, if this was black and white, it would still be the subject because it is different from the pattern of the rest.
That's true, yeah.
Frames, very central, important thing to get people to put attention or pay attention to something is by framing it. Here we have a picture of a person inside whatever kind of a window that is. So that frame makes a place for something interesting to sit in, and whatever you put in there is going to get a bit more attention. Lines are wonderful. If you have leading lines, like perspective lines that point to something, then that something is clearly going to get a lot of attention. In this case, it's a person standing in front of a wall, looks like a gallery or something, a wall of photos, and just some perspective lines in the front pointing towards that person. So lines, and they don't really have to be straight. There can be curved lines. There can be all sorts of lines. Here's a photo of a person walking between different parts of a building with lots of like slats and layered lines and curvy lines and straight lines. And I like this. Lots of repetition as well. So
very nice.
There's a clear place and a frame as well. So now we start combining things, lines and a frame, because that person is framed between these different parts of the building. Another frame example. And now we also get into color. Here's a person inside a cabin. Doors are open, and that person is not just in that frame, but also with a bright reddish kind of thing on, which guides a bit of attention. Red is a nice drawing color. Another way to amplify your subject is the size. If you have several of the same in a photo, here we're looking at some, what do you call these things? Like pay viewing things on a platform, on a viewing platform.
They're binoculars. You see them at places where you can see sites. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know what the name is for those. It's a good question.
I have no idea, but there's like 4 of those in the picture, and the one that's closest is the most important, because that's the one that is the biggest in the frame. So size by being close to something is, again, a good subject amplifier. We go on to colors now. So these are the backs of some crayons or colored pencils. Which ones of those colors do you gravitate towards? There's blue, green, red, orange, pink, yellow.
This one's less
Are there any
obvious.
specific ones?
I mean, I look at the one in the middle because it's kind of, the wood is a lighter color, but orange pops is a pop. I don't know. Tell me the answer.
Bright helps.
Bright helps.
Bright helps, and warm colors help. If
you're right. The blue fades away, even though it's
the blue fades away. The orange, the red, the yellow, they get a lot of attention, and the brighter the better. So there is. Here's an example of like a frame that frames something. There's some bollards that frame a little tiny one in the middle, and that is also bright orange. So that little tiny framed bollard between the blue and the yellow, that gets the attention because that is different and it's framed, and it's a very strong,
nice,
alerting color.
Yes.
Here's a red train that is not just red, which sticks out, but it's also framed. So that's combinations of these again. Focus helps you to literally focus. So that's a subject amplifier, something that is in focus versus something that is out of focus. If you have things out of focus that are close and big, like here's a person that is in front of, clearly close to the camera, but not in focus, that feels kind of weird, right? You want that person to be in focus. And then, put everything together and you have interesting framing, interesting color scheme, focus, and a big subject in front, in this case, a person. And it's rather obvious what you want to look at. So there's your subject amplifiers.
Yes, makes a big difference. It's cool.
Oh, it does,
Yeah. That's fascinating. And of course, you're right. You said the very first principle is have a subject. So
it helps to have a subject, and then use some of these techniques and give it a bit more importance in your photo. And you might do this by just walking around and trying to find a different angle to look at, and then suddenly a frame might emerge or lines might emerge.
Yeah.
So
you're leading the eye. You're telling your viewer what you want them to look at. So it helps them. Viewers want to know what it is you're trying to say. So it's good. I like it. We also have an assignment. You could use this for the assignment, right? What's our assignment for this week, Chris? Expensive.
The expensive assignment.
Expensive. So here's how this works. You take a picture that, I'm not saying of something expensive. That would be too concrete. That illustrates the word or concept expensive, whatever that means to you. And I imagine there'll be some humorous submissions. If you find something you like, upload it to Flickr. That's our photo sharing site, flickr.com, and submit it to the Tech Guy group. Make sure you tag it TG Expensive so our moderator, Renee Silverman, knows, oh, this is a submission. In a couple of weeks, Chris is going to pick 3 and talk about them on the radio. Until then, keep taking the photos. And thank you, Photo Sensei, Chris Marquardt. Sensei.photo for his photo workshops, his photo coaching. Do you have links to the books there, too? I hope so. Some great books.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well. And
absolutely.
The Tips from the Top Floor podcast. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's not forget. John says he thought the assignment was to take a picture with as expensive a camera as you can find.
Well, the thing is, you will probably not see that there's any difference.
Ironically.
That's just a lame excuse to go buy the more expensive camera.
Although,
yeah.
Some of my favorite photos were taken with that Leica lens. There is definitely a difference in, I don't know how to describe it.
It's just the bokeh. It's the bokeh. With the Leicas, it is the bokeh. And of course, there is this different haptic feel in these cameras that is going to feel good. And when you feel good, there is a chance that your photos might turn out a little better.
Yeah,
because
with the
you are
Sony,
doing them in a very positive mood.
With the Sony, which technically may be a better camera, it's so fiddly and there's so many things. I don't have the same rapport.
Cameras can be enormously distracting. I mean, you have especially if you don't use them every day all the time, then you are immediately in search mode. Oh, how do I do this? Where what submenu was that, and what button does what?
Exactly.
And then if you have a Sony, it's so easy to reprogram the buttons, but then you have to keep using them, so you have muscle memory of what button does what.
Yes.
And so
it's a little distancing from you.
It can be. It doesn't have to, but it can be for sure.
That's
absolutely.
That's why I like the Leica Q2, even though it's not as flexible. I can't do as many.
Yeah, but everything's where it's supposed to be, and
it's very simple. You just know you're going to point and shoot almost. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Chris, thank you so much. Stay well, and we'll talk next week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
See
sir.
You then.
All
Take
right.
care. Bye-bye.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number. Donna on the line from Phoenix, Arizona. Hello, Donna.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you so much for calling. What's up?
I have an HP Pavilion notebook I got in 2018. And about a year and a half ago, the battery stopped charging, so I've just left it plugged in the whole time.
Oh, good. And you're still able to use it. Good.
Yes, but I did get a Apple computer about a year ago. But I don't plan to use this forever. I'm using it for iTunes and things like that right now.
Okay.
To update devices. But my question is, we're going to be moving 2 states away, so if I unplug this and it's unplugged for like 2 days and I plug it in once we're up there, will the computer still work?
The HP?
You think? Yes.
Yeah. I see no reason why not. Make sure you shut it down. Go to the Windows menu and shut down so that you turn it up, power it off properly. Did you remove, your HP allow you to remove the battery? Sometimes laptops, you can take the battery out.
No, it does not. All my other laptops, it had that feature, but this one, it's all sealed up with little tiny screws.
Well, and you can't take it out, so that would be the only thing I might consider doing. Sometimes laptops, when the battery dies, because they're running power through the battery, won't operate even though you plug them in unless you take out the battery. And then the laptop says, oh, well, I guess I have to run off power, and then we'll run off power. It sounds like your Pavilion doesn't care if the battery's in or out and still will operate off of power. Yeah, I don't think that's going to change anything. What you're telling me is you've never unplugged it ever since.
No, I did when I was using it steadily.
Okay.
But then I would charge it and then unplug it and use the computer, and then when it needed charging,
but once you plugged it in, you said, I'm never unplugging this again.
Well, yeah, because I thought I would lose everything.
No, you won't lose anything. The good news is your hard drive doesn't require power to save all the data. So it's only stuff in memory. So when you shut down, you save everything that's been sitting there, any word processing documents, whatever, that are running out of RAM and do need power, you're saving them out to the disk. Once it's on the disk, you can disconnect the power because the stuff on the disk doesn't need power to survive. It's what we call non-volatile. Volatile memory, like RAM, goes away without power. Non-volatile memory, like hard drives, don't need power. So you're going to be good.
Yeah, one thing I notice when I'm doing like the Windows updates on it and things like that, where the computer's being challenged or stimulated, the battery will start charging, but it never goes to 100%.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's normal. You know, batteries, lithium-ion batteries, like all batteries, create electricity through a chemical reaction. But unlike some batteries, the chemical reaction stops working after a while. So you charge it up, you're creating a chemical, which when you're discharging gets broken back down again, build it up, break it down. You can only do that on most lithium-ion batteries about 500 times before it stops taking a charge. So that's what happened to yours. It's just not accepting a charge. If you could take the battery out, I would, because it's useless. A discharged battery is no good, and there are chemicals in there that can cause problems. But unplugged, nothing's going to go wrong. You're fine.
I don't plan to use it forever. I'm just using it for like iTunes, and I need to get those transferred over to the iMac.
Yeah, move your stuff over to the Mac. You don't need that old HP anymore. Do you like the Mac? Are you happy you made the move?
I didn't get the M1. I kind of followed your advice, and then late 2020, I bought just what I would need. I didn't
Perfect.
need,
Good.
I mean, it's not the latest and greatest, but it works great and has a Retina display. I like to do photography myself, and
as long as
so I just want to move all the music I've put on there.
Yeah, that's right.
My CD.
Yeah, put iTunes
So
on.
how would I do that? Can you?
You can just, So iTunes, and I don't remember where it does this on Windows, but what you can do is open your iTunes on Windows, and if you right-click on a song and say, show the song in Explorer, it'll show you where the songs are on the hard drive. And that song will be in an album, but that album will be in a larger folder that is all the music. So you want to go up a folder level or two till you figure out where that music is. That's what you want. On a Mac, on a modern Macs, that folder is called a media folder. On older Macs, it was called the iTunes music folder. It's going to be a folder called music or media or something like that. If you just copy that, and you can copy it onto a USB key, anything it'll fit on an external hard drive, and then put it into your Mac. Once you put that USB or external drive on your Mac, then open iTunes, or actually now it's called Music on the Mac, and import. And the reason you do it that way is it will automatically move it to the right place. It'll automatically import it into the library, and all your music will be there. You'll have it. The other good thing about this is you'll have a nice backup copy now on that USB drive, and you'll have a copy. You'll have moved it into the Mac's music folder. So copy it to a USB drive from your PC, put the USB drive on the Mac, open iTunes, import all the music from that USB drive.
So the external drive should be recognized and work with that.
Well, there's another story. Yes, you're right. I'm glad you raised that particular topic. If you format it on a Mac, no, because the Windows won't be able to read a disk formatted on the Mac. If you format it on the PC, no problem.
Yeah, they're all on the PC, and I don't.
As long as your PC can see it.
It's just on life support right now.
Yeah, this is actually a really good time to get everything off that HP.
Right.
Back it up to an external drive, and then you can copy it onto the Mac. Whatever you need, anyway, you can copy it on the Mac.
Okay.
All right.
If I have problems, I'll call you back, but I appreciate your help, and I usually learn something every week that I listen to you, so I appreciate that.
I'm glad you listened. There's one extra complication I'll add, but you can ignore this if it's already too much. And that is if you have ratings or playlists or something like that on your PC and you want to move those, it's a little more complicated. But we've got an article from Macworld I'll put in the show notes that talks through the extra steps required if you want to save all of those little extra things you did.
Oh, I see.
Did you put ratings on your songs, or create a lot of playlists, things like that?
I have playlists.
Playlists, you might want to save those, yeah. So there is a way. There's a way to do that, and this article in Macworld goes through that. It's a little more complicated than what I just described.
And then Apple doesn't support the iPod shuffles anymore, correct?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, I tried to switch out my music, and it said it wouldn't.
You can't copy music using an iPod, unfortunately. But gosh, I would hope it still supports the iPod
I just
Shuffle.
wanted to switch it off of the HP laptop.
Yeah, you might have to reformat it. The iPod Shuffles were made for Windows won't work on the Mac, so you have to reformat it. But you can do that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can actually.
Okay.
That might be a Google search on that one. But I'd be shocked if Apple said, "No, yeah, that's too old. You can't use that anymore." That would be dumb.
These companies are just getting too disposable.
Yeah, I agree. We're filling up the landfill with perfectly good stuff. For instance, HP should replace the battery in that pavilion and it'd be fine.
Oh, no, they can't do that.
Can't do that. No, then you wouldn't buy another computer, would you?
Not theirs. I went with Apple.
Yeah, so joke's on them, isn't it? Hey, I appreciate the call. I hope that helps a little bit, Bonnie. And call Donna, and call anytime if it doesn't work, just call back, okay?
Okay.
Where are you moving to? From Phoenix to
Idaho.
Where it's a little cooler? You want a little cooler temperatures?
Yeah, 118, 120.
Yikes! Yeah, I had a girlfriend who lived in Phoenix. I went to visit her for 2 weeks. We broke up. I couldn't take it in the summer. It was just too hot. She was great, but I couldn't take the weather. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We've got your smartphones. We've got your smart watches. We've got all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's what we talk about here. High tech. Anything with a chip in it. And the chip can be from any company. AMD, Intel, Apple, it doesn't matter. Qualcomm, Samsung, TSMC. A lot of chip makers these days. 8888 Ask Leo. Website is techguylabs.com. And if it's something that's complicated or, I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining on the air, like, for instance, how to copy your iTunes files from Windows to Mac without losing your playlists and your song ratings, things like that, I will often put a link in the show notes to a longer article, as I did with the last caller. And you'll find that at techguylabs.com. This is episode 1882. We're going to be in the 20th century pretty soon. Wow. Amazing. Kevin on the line from Riverside, California, our next caller. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, how you doing today, Leo?
I am great. How are you?
Oh, fine. I heard you talking to the other Kevin about the problem with the Mac Mini and two screens. And yes. I am a digital illustrator. And I work for myself.
Yes.
And I have to piecemeal things together. I started off with my cheese grater Mac. I had that for so long. I love that thing. And I have a Scenic screen that I draw on. And a guy down the street from me was selling a beautiful cinema display from Mac, a 30-inch cinema display with silver.
Nice.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
I used to have several of them. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it is still. I mean, I know it's old, and I have a lot of adapters to fit it into a modern computer, but it is still. I put my photographs that I'm drawing from up on it, and then on my Sneak.
Nice.
I draw on that. It's right below it.
Are your pictures online anywhere we can see?
Oh yeah, you can go to Pat Art by Kevin, P-A-T. Pat is for Patterson. Yeah, that's right. So Pat Art by Kevin.
Nice. I shall take a look at that. Oh, you put them on Etsy. How nice.
Yes, I'm everywhere.
I like Etsy. Is it a good experience as a seller?
Actually, I'm going to give a plug for something. I do a lot on Redbubble.
Right. I don't even know Redbubble. Okay.
Yeah, because they will print on things for me. I do my own prints for my artwork, but when it's on something, like on a cup or something, I don't do that.
Or T-shirts or
right.
Is that you? Do you look just like Elvis? That's a great picture.
No, that's one of my artwork stuff.
That's cool.
I do a lot of
50s stuff. It looks like.
In mid-century modern,
yes.
A lot of stuff out in Palm Springs, a lot of tiki people. I do mostly old signs. The people that follow me know my old signs.
I love this. Oh,
yeah, and I do 99% of what I do is all in Illustrator, and I do all my shadowing and everything in Illustrator, and then I take it to Photoshop.
And you do that because it scales better. So
yes,
yeah.
And I explain to people because when I talk to other artists and they do it all in Photoshop, I say, you know how big that file is got to be.
It's going to be pixelated.
Pixels.
Yeah.
Right. It's pixels. I said, no, I just draw it all in Illustrator. It's just lines. I used to be an airbrush artist back in the Air Force, and I did stuff on planes for
you would paint the girls on the front nose of the wait a minute, that's the 40s.
No, I mostly actually on door. I'm going to go on a side note here. I was a weapons loader, and I did my own. I did my own certification to become a graphic artist in the Air Force.
Good for you.
And I did. I worked on A-10s, and a lot of pilots would have their inside their door painted. I'd paint stuff on the inside of the door because it closed, and
Yeah.
But that's another story altogether.
So you had no trouble with your cheese grater getting as many monitors as you want. The Cintiq, your cinema display.
I want to.
That was easy.
Then I went to a Mac Mini, and now I have my Mac Mini, and I can't. I have problems with my Sneak. I couldn't hook it to it.
Yeah.
So I bought this thing. It's called a. It's from. Let me go look at it. Hinge Dock.
Hinge Dock.
It's called Bridgestone 2.
Oh, it's from Bridge. I know these guys. Yeah, the Hinge Dock. In fact, I had one of these. Yeah. Yeah.
And I hooked my other monitor into it.
It's hinged like Stonehenge. So if you have a laptop, you can stick it in this Hinge Dock sideways. And so it's out of the way.
Yeah, they do have. Yeah, I was looking. I'm having it up on the screen now. I see they have a whole lot of.
I think that's where the name came from originally, because it's like Stonehenge.
Yeah, the one I have is wedge shape.
Yeah,
and then it has a USB-C, and that USB-C goes right into my my Mac.
So do you have an M1 based Mac Mini? Do you have one of the 2020 or later?
No, I don't have. I have the last version.
So this is where your troubles began, or mine anyway, because the Intels were much more capable.
Okay.
Because they used Intel's built-in Iris graphics, and they were able to handle multiple monitors. Apple has not been. Yeah, well, see, this is the problem. Apple's not been very clear about this. And I think they've led to some broken hearts. So with an M1 MacBook Air or an M1 MacBook Pro 13, you cannot, without some additional stuff, non-Apple software, you cannot run two monitors at all. On the Mac Mini that I bought, Apple says you can. You can run one monitor off the because it has a built-in HDMI port. You can run one Mac monitor or any monitor off of that. And then in theory, the Type-C connector will drive a Type-C monitor or a DisplayPort monitor. And the same is supposedly true of the Mac Studio. And I have several Mac Studios. One Mac Studio runs two monitors just fine doing that. One doesn't. And then this little Mac Mini, this 2020 Mac Mini I just got for the studio, I'm having the devil of a time running two monitors off of it. I don't know if it's a cabling issue or what, but
this adapter wouldn't do it?
No. I have several adapters that are supposed to do it, somewhat similar to the Bridge adapter.
I mean, I've tried a bunch of stuff until I went to this and this.
But you're on Intel, and so that is a very different thing. Yeah, that is a very different thing. And I
assume Siemens C that would do the same thing.
No, I wish it would.
And I wanted to go up to the next Mac Mini, but this one works so fine. I haven't had to
stick with it. You're fine.
Yeah.
And the truth is, when it comes time to replace that, and that may be years off, they've really done a good job with this M1, the Apple Silicon, and you will like it very much. Especially Adobe's being
my brother-in-law to get one of those.
Yeah. Adobe's updating all their software. I don't know if Illustrator is yet M1 compatible, but all the Photoshop and Lightroom are, and soon all of them will be. I think Premiere just became M1 compatible, and so that's going to be a really good way to go. But Apple has not been completely clear about. Part of the problem is the HDMI port on these things, even the brand new Mac Studios, is HDMI 2.0, not 2.1, which means it can't drive 5K off the HDMI. It's really odd in a computer that could be a $6,000 computer that you can't. It's silly, and I think some of it's because they're doing their own graphics processors, and it's problematic. So.
Well, I'm so sorry. I really thought this would help you.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
It was such a big help to me when I finally figured this.
I thought it would. I bought
my head trying to.
I bought 2 of these docks, hoping it would help me. And in theory, by the way, Apple's page says no, you can do this. So I'm not sure what's going on. We're going to track it down. We'll get it to work. But I appreciate the help, and it's a pleasure talking to you. And I'm glad we could tell people to go to Pat Art by Kevin. What is the Pat short for? Patio? Pat?
No, my last name.
Oh, your last name.
I sell out in Palm Springs a lot, and they all like little tag names. So when I was back at the Air Force, story quick again, your name's on your chest, and everyone shortens my name to Pat.
Right.
And they would say, "Can Pat do some artwork for our AMU?" And I was, they'd say, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And
what's the craziest thing you put inside a pilot store?
Oh no, A10 warthogs. I'd paint crazy warthogs that would go inside them, and
that's cute. That's awesome. I love I Love Lucy.
I did
That's
murals
awesome.
On bases and everything I did. I love doing that. But that was all hand artwork. People always ask me that. I said, "Oh, you're a digital artist." I said, "No, I did hand art."
Yeah,
but
it's a lot easier now with a Cintiq and Illustrator. Life is good. 2 monitors. Hey, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Take care.
Well, let me know if that ever does happen.
Oh, we'll get it working.
Because I will eventually go over to that style of Mac Mini. So.
Yeah, everybody's been trying to be very helpful on this. And maybe I just have a bad unit. I don't know. But I do notice that at home I'm having similar issues. So there's some funky little thing going on with Apple. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because if I was about ready to...
You know what? You got it working. Don't mess with it. As long as it's doing the job, don't touch it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Kevin. Pat Art by Kevin. It's on Etsy, and he likes Redbubble as well. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. A lot of people in the chat room saying, you know what? Digital art's art. Art is art. Doesn't matter how you make it. That's right. That's right. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Illustrator and InDesigner now M1. Okay, they were as of June. Oh, good. I stand corrected. Rod Pyle.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Champion of space.
So when I saw you scrolling over that artwork, I knew you were going to go for the tiki mug.
I don't
know why.
We're getting
but I thought, I want to see that.
We're getting a tiki restaurant in Petaluma. I'm so excited.
Really?
Next time you come up here.
Yeah.
A tiki restaurant serves rum drinks, John. What else?
Ooh.
And maybe poo-poos, coconut prawns, and things like that.
And Loco Moco or whatever it's called.
Loco Moco. The tiki room at Disneyland is not tiki. That is not tiki.
Is that still there?
No, they shut it down.
Yeah, because last time I saw it was probably 20 years ago with the birds, the feathers.
Exactly. I saw it
kind of
when
falling off.
We took Abby for her 6th birthday, and she was dressed in a whole Minnie Mouse outfit. And she was so excited, and she met Minnie Mouse, and it was just so much nervous energy. Then we got to the tiki room, and she passes out in my arms, fast asleep.
Well, it was good for that.
In the tiki room.
I fell asleep in the tiki room.
It's not the most exciting.
No. But it was cute. I mean, you can see we're in the 50s or 60s. It was like,
it's still there.
Robots.
I'm sorry. I thought it was gone. It's still there. Still there. I don't. And I have to find out about this Petaluma Tiki Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where the chicken farm was. It's next door to our old studio, which means it'll be gone in minutes because how many restaurants went bankrupt there? 3 while we were there.
Wow.
It was when we moved in. It was Pazzo, and then it was the Social Club, and then it was Chicken Farm, which was a terrible name.
Ugh. It doesn't bring to mind.
It's
what
worse.
You want. Yeah.
It's worse. PHARM. What does that bring to mind?
Injections.
Yes.
And antibiotics and chickens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were out of business in months.
We have a place down the street called the Chicken Coop.
That's okay.
is cute, but it doesn't bring to mind attractive things on the ground.
It's not a good idea, honestly, if you're eating something to name your restaurant after the food.
After the food?
Yeah. If it's an animal,
or after how it lives.
Yeah. On a farm.
Executed. Yeah. Yeah.
So, we're getting so I think when that tiki restaurant opens, we'll have to all go over there. The owner of that building is in federal prison.
Oh,
for a Ponzi scheme. Turns out she was this was a real estate Ponzi scheme. So she bought our place with tainted dollars. It's now in federal receivership.
Wow. So if you lease it for a restaurant, you're paying the feds.
I don't understand.
Kind of
I don't know why there's a restaurant there, to be honest with you. I guess the feds would like to unload the whole building, probably. But,
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
They might have just taken the first offer that came along.
Probably, right? Because you want it to look occupied. We didn't buy it because they were asking 3 times the normal price in Petaluma. But, of course, if you've got a real estate Ponzi scheme, fine.
Oh, they were. But the federal auction wasn't, right?
No. But the people who sold it to the Ponzi scheme were. Our old landlord wanted 3 times the going rate. And we said, well, we'd love to buy this building, but not at triple the normal square foot price. Yeah. So we didn't buy it. We just moved. They thought we couldn't move. The owner, our landlord, told them when they bought it, "Oh, don't worry, Twit'll never move. They built $1 million studio in there. They're stuck." So they tried to triple our rent to pay for the tripled cost, and we said, "Yeah, we'll see ya. We'll see ya."
That's the building you're in now?
No, that's the old building. You never saw the old brick house, beautiful brick house studio.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk in a few. 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Rod Pyle, our spaceman's coming up. But first, Joel on the line from San Bernardino. Hello, Joel.
Hey, Leo. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I'm a reasonably competent tech guy, but I am not a gamer, and I don't speak gaming. I am a pilot and would like to set up a system exclusively for using with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'm looking for some recommendations.
The first recommendation is not a system, but not PlayStation, Xbox Series X, which you can get for $450, $500. They have been in very short supply, but if you run to your Walmart, they've got them. Microsoft's got them. Something happened over the last few weeks that that we suddenly are able to get these. It runs Flight Simulator beautifully at 4K, 120 hertz. So get it.
Does, but I've got one. That's the direction I headed. But it turns out that it doesn't accept external flight controls, the yokes and.
Oh, you want a yoke and pedals and all of that jazz.
Well, no, I'm not going overboard, but just the yoke and some basic controls. So.
Oh, come on. Get the pedals. And while you're at it, get screens for the side windows, the front windows, the oblique windows. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens. It'll be just like you're in a Cessna. It'll be amazing.
Perfect.
All right, you need a yoke. I didn't realize the Xbox did not support a yoke. That's a bummer. That's a bummer.
Yeah, I was really surprised.
I'm very surprised because it's just a USB device. That's weird. Okay. Well, PC-wise, you're going to spend a little more money because you really need a decent graphics card. As you know right now, just as the Xbox was in short supply, good graphics cards are, and they're, as a result, way overpriced. What I did to get a gaming PC, and I actually wouldn't hesitate recommending this, is I went to Dell's Alienware brand. They make gaming PCs because I figured, well, I'm never going to be able to get a NVIDIA, this was a year ago, 3080, RTX 3080, GTX 3080. But I bet you Dell can. They have more buying power. And in fact, I was able to order it and get it within a month, which was, I thought, pretty good back in February of 2021. And that runs Flight Simulator beautifully. But, of course, a little more expensive than an Xbox. So the gaming machines out there, I think, are a great choice. Let me just see what Microsoft says is the minimum. Because, you don't want the minimum. But let's...
Right, and that's where I'm trying to figure out what the right balance of memory and the right... video card is.
Yeah. Because it'll run on an Xbox, we know it actually will run. The Xbox has a very good processor an even better graphics card, but doesn't have a huge amount of RAM and all that stuff. So we know it'll run, but you want it to run well. They say a minimum an Intel i5 and a Radeon RX 570. I think you want an NVIDIA video card, and I think you want at least a 3070, if not a 3080.
Okay.
The current is 3090. So, that as you go back, year by year, it gets cheaper and easier to get. Right now, the RTX 3070 starts about $400-$500, so that's by itself more expensive than the Xbox. Nevertheless, you're going to need a very good graphics card. That's more important than anything else. I would get an i7 processor. If you can, get a 12th generation Intel. Those are the newest ones, the Alder Lake. They are definitely better because they have decided to go the same route Apple and Qualcomm have gone with performance cores and efficiency cores. And that turns out to be a very good trade-off in performance and power. So if you get a 12th generation i9 or 12th generation i7, I'm sure that they say it'll work in 16 gigs of RAM. I think you kind of want to get a little bit better than that. So, this is expensive. We're talking a couple of grand at least right now. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How much is the yoke?
No, that's not the big expense in this hobby.
Yeah, once you get the pedals and the 5 screens, though, then now we're talking. So Digital Foundry has a good review, I'm told, in the chat room of Flight Simulator in which they compare video cards. That's going to be even more valuable because so that's on YouTube, youtube.com, Digital Foundry. And they will show you the actual image quality on different video cards, which is a really great idea. That way you'll know what you're getting when you buy it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I think it's worth spending the 32 gigs for sure.
Memory, 32 gigs?
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought 128 gigs, but that probably is more than I needed. My feeling is you don't want to feel like, oh, gosh, if I just spent a few hundred more, it would be really better. So
exactly.
32 gigs, I think, is good. Again, a 12th generation, 11th if you can't, but 12th if you can. Intel processor, i7. Actually, the AMDs work quite well with it too. So that's what's in an Xbox. So you might look at a Ryzen 9. That might also be a good choice. But the GPU is going to be the most important thing. That's what's doing all that work. Where are you going to fly first?
The simulator or the airplane?
Both. I'm going to fly the cheapest plane they've got because I don't want it to be complicated, probably a Cessna. And my friend Paul Thurrott says I have to fly under the Eiffel Tower, which, of course, is something you can't do in real life.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'm using it to practice real-life approaches. So
nice.
It'll probably be someplace in Northern California.
What do you fly?
It's a single-engine Piper Comanche 400.
How fun. See, what a great way to practice. Yeah. That's great. And you think it's accurate enough to be a good simulator?
I think it's perfect enough at least to
get
give you an expectation of how things are going to go.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'll tell you how it's going to go. We got our space guy coming up. That's it. That's how it's going to go. How cool is that? He's actually using it to prepare for visits to Northern California. It is expensive. I mean, you're talking a lot of money. I decided to just do it on the Xbox because I don't. I did buy it actually on Windows, but I'm not going to buy a flight yoke and all that. So. Now, if they had Saturn V's, if they had a Crew Dragon simulator, that'd be cool.
Kerbal's Trace program.
Kerbal does, huh?
I guess so. I've never actually tried it.
I don't think you actually do much. It's mostly preparing, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's building the thing out. Yeah. And Saturn V's flew themselves, so.
Can you get? So you can't get it. So the list for the 3070 is $499. You can't get it for less than that. Probably that makes sense. Let's see what Best Buy is charging here.
Best Buy.
What's Best Buy? Oh, my God, $800. Oh, my God. Oh, that's the TI, though. Huh. That's the TI. I don't want a TI. Just want a regular 37. Yeah, it's still expensive. Oh, no, here's a $500 sold out. Unavailable. Yeah, what they are is they're just overcharging because they can. God dang it. So list is $499, but yeah, good luck getting it for list. Rod, I'm going to go get a beverage, but I shall return.
Okay.
I shall return.
Thank you, sir.
If you want to talk to the folks, you're on.
Okay. Ooh, somebody shoot me a question. X-Plane. The only flight simulator I ever used was on a Tandy HD 1200, which is an 8088 machine, and it wasn't very convincing. Hey, Tech Dino. It was a lot of black field with little green stars that move very slowly. Is space the final frontier? Yeah, because there isn't much to do after that. I mean, we still got a lot of exploration to do with the oceans, but it's interesting. I was reading about this not too long ago, about the Sea Lab program back in the 60s. Some of you may remember that. It was back when Jacques Cousteau was incredibly active. And a number of Navy divers spent time in habitats down on the ocean floor, something down, I don't know, I think the maximum depth is about 600 feet. And it was sort of a dead end. There just wasn't a lot down there to do and to explore. And I think probably over the next couple of decades, most of what we'll see with the oceans will be more in the nature of seasteading, which is near surface and surface environments where they build habitats that are basically little floating cities out in the middle of the Pacific. But yes, space is the final frontier, and we're going to keep talking on this show and on the podcast This Week in Space about space settlement, because that's kind of the next big thing, I think. It's way out there, but it's kind of the next big thing. Will the Hubble still be used, or will it be considered old tech? No, the Hubble will continue going as long as it can. There are limitations with fuel and gyroscope wear, and servicing the Hubble again, excuse me, is something that can probably be done, but it would be expensive and not an ideal mission for SpaceX, but they're probably about the only people that could do it at this point. It's at a fairly high orbit. It's up at about 400 miles, which is almost double where the space station is. So it's a little tricky, but now the Hubble should have at least another 10 years, which is great because that means it's operating in conjunction with Webb and soon with a couple of other space telescopes, one of which just got delayed, unfortunately. But the Seaview explored all of the ocean, with those big windows in the front. So Hubble's going to be around. I'm sorry I'm missing a few of these because they went past. Do I believe there is a God?
It's time for our space guy, Rod Pyle. He's back from his journey on the International Space Station. The Russians brought... No, that was another space guy. Mark Vanderheide came back. He made it.
Came home, and they let him come back, which was great.
But now the Russians are saying, and that's it, we're done. No more.
Well, they keep saying different stuff, and Rogozin, who's the chief of Roscosmos, which is our agency, is kind of a loudmouth. He's a political appointee.
He's political. He's not a scientist.
Yeah, and, so he says, fly your broomsticks to space, and then Elon tweets him a picture of Falcon 9 and says America's broomstick, which I thought was awesome.
That's a good response.
But he was the same one that said, go up into your trampolines. And I just thought, this guy's, so he's got a lot of hot air. But, hey, we had an occurrence in the last 10 days. Looks like we're going to get the bucks for the Buck Rogers this time around. This is the first, so I'm referring to the White House's budget request for NASA, which is always a tricky moment. And it's been a really long time since we saw successive presidential administrations
support
agree
NASA.
To pursue, pursue the same goals. So Biden's up in the ante even more. So he's following the lead that Trump started, and he's asking for $26 billion this time out, which is up $2 billion, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're trying to get specific things funded, and of course there's categories, right? But a lot of this money is going to be for the lunar landing program, the Artemis program. So $300 million goes to building the lunar lander, which at this point SpaceX has the only contract, but they're opening it up for a second one, which I think we talked about. And Blue Origin and probably Dynetics are going to bid on that, which are, Dynetics is another corporate comer. Blue Origin's got this national team along with Lockheed and, Northrop Grumman and the organization from MIT that did the original computer for the Apollo spacecraft. So they're probably going to get it. And that's good because you want two different systems. In case there's problems with one, you fly the other and it initiates competition and all that. So that's great. And, we need a lunar lander or we're not going to get to the moon. And it looks like the schedule slides for the Artemis flights are slowing down a bit. However, in the same week that this budget request came out, we also got an evaluation from a government source that said, these SLS rockets are going to cost about $4 billion a pop to launch, which is kind of that's almost putting the brakes on a few things.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if your whole budget's 28 or 22 billion, that's
26, we
26.
hope.
But does Congress usually come through with that if the president asks for it?
No, although under Trump it was interesting. They came through with the approximate numbers, but they slid categories around because Trump was canceling a lot of robotic stuff and, of course, a lot of earth science work. And
NASA does a lot of other things.
Put that, but
to put it in
almost
perspective,
everything we know about climate science comes from orbital.
This is less than 0.5% of the federal outlay. It's 0.48% of the 4.7 trillion. So, I mean, $1 billion sounds like a lot of money to you and me, and it is. But to the federal government, it's less than 0.5%. In the space race era, in the 60s, we were spending as much as 4% of the federal budget.
Over 4.
Yeah.
So this is a tiny amount of money compared to then, and NASA does almost exactly 10 times as much stuff.
Isn't that interesting?
Because back then we had a handful of satellites. We had the occasional probe going out to Venus and to Mars, and then the Gemini program when all that started up. And now, besides everything that's going on with SLS and this huge space station, which is a technological miracle, if you ask me, on top of that, we've got stuff out in the outer solar system. We've got a couple of rovers on Mars. We've got all kinds of orbiting assets around Mars. We're sending new missions out to Venus, space telescopes.
Could we, if we had more money... should we have more money? Could we do so much more? Or are we so efficient that we don't necessarily need a lot more money? I mean, I know everybody wants more all the time, but it sounds like we're doing a lot with a small amount of money.
Well, and I think part of that's because of companies like SpaceX and
commercial
ultimately
space.
Blue Origin coming up and saving us a lot of money. So access to the space station is cheaper than it's been in a while. These systems that are going to create lunar landers are undoubtedly going to be a lot cheaper than if the feds did it with the old traditional contracting method with traditional aerospace contractors. So, we are seeing there's kind of a traffic jam happening at the Kennedy Space Center right now because we've got the Space Launch System mega rocket sitting out at Pad 39B doing fueling tests and integration tests, which is great because they need to do that so they can have their launch hopefully in June. Then we've got this AX-1 mission from this company called Axiom. It's the first private mission up to the space station, which is going to take up for, let's call them professional astronauts. They're not really space tourists because they're going to be doing research up there. And then right behind that, we have a Crew 4 launch also on SpaceX. So if any of these things get hung up, it can really slow it down. But it's wonderful to see this much activity at the Kennedy Space Center because I haven't seen this since the Apollo days.
Yeah.
Because the shuttle it never really reached its full pace. They wanted to fly that thing every week. Right. And we were lucky to get 4 flights a year. So this is new and different, and it feels like it's really happening. So to answer the question, would more money help? Sure, because they can always spend more, and things are going. We did see with this budget I was talking about, there's a little bit of a slowdown, or at least a flattening of money for Mars exploration and some other things because of this Europa Clipper project, which is going to go out and examine Jupiter's moon Europa has ballooned up to $5 billion because all those things get more expensive than they originally thought. So, there are some hot spots there. But, I mean, thank goodness they're getting it. And, yeah, if they had 30 billion or 50 billion, we'd be on Mars in about 6 years.
Yeah.
I think.
It's hard. I also understand that we have other needs. We have societal needs. And, there's other things to spend money on. And everything's a competition. There's a limited amount of money to spend. It feels like we're spending maybe the right amount of money right now. Given
but
all
imagine
the
if it was 4.5% like it was in the 60s.
But that was because we were scared of the Soviets. I mean, that was
something billion. Yeah, although now we're scared of China. So, there's very real competition happening there, and they're moving fast. And it's interesting. They have this Long March 9 rocket they've been working on for years. It's kind of similar to the SLS for a number of years. And then as they were watching Musk and Starship, they said, yeah, maybe SLS isn't the right thing to copy. So now they're starting to copy it along the lines of Starship. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But they move fast, and they allocate a lot of money out in 10-year batches, essentially. I mean, the policy decisions are made in 10-year batches. So
that's the problem.
They get a lot done.
Is it changes president every 4 or 8 years, and then and changes priorities even more frequently than that sometimes. So you can't count on a single steady budget. You don't know what you're going to get.
Russia and China don't change presidents anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How convenient is that?
How convenient. How nice for them. Anything else going on in the world of space? Rod does a great podcast, if you want to know more, called This Week in Space, twit.tv/TWIS.
Thanks to you.
Yes. Well, not really, but good. I'm glad you're thanking me. Anyway.
I am.
Thanks to you and Tarek Malik from space.com. Rod is the author of many great space books. He's the editor-in-chief of Ad Astra magazine. You can subscribe to that at space.nss.org. A great gift, I think, for a precocious middle schooler. Get them interested in space because, frankly, they're the ones that are going to be going. Not you and me, Rod. It's the people in middle school. Yeah.
I don't know about you. I'm not going anywhere higher than the 737 flight, I don't think. There is one more thing that I want to mention.
10 seconds.
9, Ingenuity.
8.
Just hit their 23rd flight. Very successful. They're only supposed to do 5.
That's
on they go.
The
Mars helicopter.
Mars helicopter.
Woo-hoo!
Awesome. Way to go, Ingenuity. Thank you, Rod. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Woo! We're both going, that's it
spins around thing. Oh my God. And interestingly, it's been so successful that they are now positioning themselves to propose the Mars Science Helicopter, which will have 6 rotors. So it'll be, like a quad rotor, except it'll have 6 of them out to the sides, and carry enough instrumentation, probably, I would guess the thing would weigh like 30, 40 pounds, maybe a little less. Carry enough instrumentation to fly much further. They're talking about flying under crevices, out into sandy fields where the rover can't go, and even into caves.
Wow.
Which means it's got to have enough AI on it to track into the cave and get back out in case it loses radio contact, which is pretty interesting if you think about it. And enough instrumentation that it can set down and do surface science. So essentially, it's an extension of the rover itself. So that would be really awesome if they were able to do that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I want to see that.
Yeah. Everything going well?
Yeah, no complaints. I got to head back down to the boat and make sure it isn't sprouting any new leaks. But other than that, life tumbles on. Podcast is going well. I think the audience is growing appreciably, and we're having a great
You're
time.
promoting it like crazy.
People,
Thank you.
And your people are just dynamite. I got to tell you, Ant has just been
Ant's
incredibly supportive.
Yeah,
the guy can't give you enough time. He's so generous with his time. So it's really
good.
And
glad to hear
Jerry
that.
and all of them.
Yeah, we have a good team.
It's really been a good experience. You got a real well-oiled machine there.
Thank you.
Yeah, props to you.
Well, thanks for being a part of it. And the next time you come up, you and me in the Tiki Bar.
When's it going to open? I want to come.
I think soon. I'll find out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it a bar or a restaurant?
I don't know. What is it? I think, that's a restaurant, that space. Yeah. Let's see. Petaluma Tiki Bar.
Now, I don't know if you remember this, but when you were younger, were you a rum drinker when you were younger?
I love my rum.
I loved my rum, But after a couple of, as with any alcohols, after a couple of excessive encounters, one thing I realized that rum does that a lot of other hard liquors don't do is it hits your joints the next day.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because of all the sugar, apparently.
So you're creaky.
I could barely walk for 2 days.
So now, wait a minute.
I
This
thought,
is from 2019, Duke's Tiki opening in the old chicken farm site. Yeah, I think that maybe they didn't want to do it during COVID.
Oh,
So,
that would be a bad time to open, for sure.
So it's going to be called Duke's. I like the name.
Duke's.
Got a good name.
That's classic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic. So we shall see. I'll let you know when they open up.
Did you ever go to a bar in Los Angeles in the Silver Lake district called the Tiki Thai?
No. That sounds
very
good, though.
famous in showbiz circles. It was a little hole in the wall, but they made amazing tropical drinks.
I did not spend enough time in L.A., really.
Anytime?
Huh?
Anytime. We're not going
anytime.
anywhere. Come on down.
Anytime. Yes.
Yeah, come on down.
Well, it's funny. I always think when I get down there, I think, actually, in theory, I'm a LA radio personality.
Yeah, that's right.
In
That's
theory,
how you started.
I'm on the big station.
Yeah.
6 hours a week.
When's the last time you went over to KFI?
Oh, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. I don't know.
But the
Been a
new
long
building,
time.
right?
Yeah, I remember the old building down in Koreatown, and then they got the new building in Sherman Oaks, or not Sherman Oaks.
Well, they're Burbank now.
Burbank, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to the new building. Yeah,
it's
once.
the atrium, the ceiling's 4 stories
all radio
high,
stations look the same
unbelievable.
to me. If you ask me, they're all the same.
Really?
Tiki
I thought
Thai
most
is
of them were a
open.
little-
Is Tiki Thai ours? Is that what it's called? Oh, that's the one you were talking about.
That's
Tiki
the one in
Thai.
LA. Yeah.
It's still open, closing.
Yeah?
Yeah, let's all go down.
You can get a tropical drink for only about $28.
See ya.
Okay,
Fred.
take care.
Thank you for letting me be your personal tech guy once again. I appreciate it. Thanks to Professor Laura, our musical director, who was Jeremiah yesterday. Thanks to both of them. Thanks, of course, to Kim Schaffer, who's here each and every day with a different dog. I don't understand it. She manages to find a different pooch for every show. Thanks to you. And what's his name again?
McLovin.
McLovin.
A la Superbad.
Yeah, no, I remember the movie. Absolutely. And he looks exactly like McLovin.
So you can tell that his owner is about a 36-year-old male.
Yeah. You can tell by animal names, can't you? Yeah. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate
welcome.
what you do for us. Thanks to all of you for joining us, for listening, of course, and calling in. Wouldn't be much of a call-in show if you didn't, so you have my deepest appreciation. Pretty lucky I get to do this for a living, even. Well, sort of. On the line, Don from Southern California. Hi, Don.
Hi. Thanks for letting me ask you these questions.
Of course.
I have a relative out of state in his late 80s. I want to loan him a Chromebook.
Okay.
So he and I can do Zoom.
What a great idea.
Emails. The problems I'm running into are there's so many varieties of these. They range from $87 to $499. All he needs to be able to do is email, Zoom, and FaceTime.
Can't do FaceTime on a Chromebook, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fine.
That's an Apple-only technology, but you can do Zoom in the browser. The thing about Chromebooks, you probably know this, is that they only can do what you can do in Chrome. But Zoom, because of that, Zoom has it.
I really don't know anything about Chromebooks.
Okay.
I use advanced photography and video and all that on a Windows unit. But judging from what you've said, the Chromebook is perfect for him.
Yeah. Is he going to do anything else besides the video calls?
Just email and Zoom is fine.
Okay.
He also lives in a home with a bunch of other teenagers, and I want to keep their hands off of this thing.
A Chromebook's a good choice because even if the teenagers got hold of it, you could wipe it. And
that's my next question is I'll probably want to keep the master password, give him a user account.
You don't have to do that with a Chromebook. That's
teenagers from getting into
no. You don't have to do that with a Chromebook. That's, of course, what we do with more general purpose operating systems. But there is no administrator account on a Chromebook. It is his Google account. So what you'll do is you'll set up a Google account for him. If he already gets Gmail, he already has a Google account, and that's all he needs. When he shuts it down, when he closes the lid or just walks away and it times out, it logs out. There is a guest mode. The beauty of the guest mode on the Chromebook is if those teenagers do get a hold of it and they use the guest mode, as soon as they exit, it erases everything they've done. It's gone. It completely wipes it out. So the Chromebook is designed for this.
Things while they're on.
Pardon me?
Can the teenagers go in and do nefarious things while they're on?
No. All they can do is browse the web. They won't, but trust me, they will not want to take a look at his Chromebook. they'll say, "Grandpa, keep your Chromebook. I don't need it. I don't want it."
Okay.
But even if they did,
it's possible to do remote troubleshooting for him.
No, you won't need to. Yes, there is. There's actually a really nice Chrome remote mode that lets you remote in from another Chromebook or another computer.
Could you put a link in the notes to that?
Sure can.
I'll look that up on my own.
Sure can. And then Amazon has a lot of good Chromebooks for fairly little money. I would say a Lenovo, which makes a $260 or $250 Chromebook, the Lenovo Flex, is a very good choice. That's cheap. They even make them cheaper than that. I'd be careful about going too much.
I came across some that were $87.
Yeah, I would caution you against going too cheap because then they're sacrificing hardware, and you don't want it to be so junky he doesn't want to use it. So Samsung, Lenovo, HP all make excellent Chromebooks. Acer arguably maybe the best Chromebooks, but they can be a little pricier. But I think
$4.99 in the life.
Yeah, they're really nice. They're aluminum body and all that stuff. But if he doesn't care, I think a Samsung
he doesn't
is probably.
care, and I don't care.
Yeah, get him a Samsung.
I probably won't get this back once he dies.
Yeah,
would be my guess.
The teenagers will steal it. So here's the other thing to know, and you probably should get one too, so you can learn up on Chromebooks. But the other thing to know about Chromebooks is they have a feature called Power Wash. It's very straightforward. If he decides, I don't know what they've done and anything, you power wash it, and it's just like it came from the factory. Can
I activate this?
Remotely, no. Oh. No, you cannot. But so you might want to give him a piece of paper that says, do this, 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 and this, and you're power washed. And then the beauty of it is nothing has changed because he still logs into the Chromebook the same as he always did with his Google login. And because the way the Chromebook's designed, you store everything on Google anyway. Nothing's lost. You're right back to where you were. It's perfect for an older person who doesn't want to be get all tied up in the computer world, but just wants to get stuff done, especially if there's teenagers around. Gosh darn them.
Will this thing, is it acceptable for genealogy, specifically Ancestry?
Yeah, so anything you can do on the web is fine. What you can't do is run genealogy software. Sometimes people will use Ancestry and the Mormon library and so forth to download stuff and build a genealogical tree on their hard drive. You can't do that. That's with specialized software. But that's all right. That stuff's expensive anyway, and everything he wants to do these days can be done on the web. So that's kind of the beauty of the web. I would take a look at a Samsung Chromebook, a Lenovo Chromebook, HP. I would say you really want to spend around $200, no less. Otherwise, the trackpad or the keyboard or the screen will just be too terrible to use.
Okay, that's fine. I have no issue with that.
Good.
Out of the ones you mentioned, given this situation, which one would you pick?
Let me see what they're charging right now for the Samsungs. I think the Samsung Chromebook Plus is a pretty good choice. $279. It's got a decent camera. That's fairly important because, as you say, he's going to be using this to do Zoom calls. It's got enough horsepower to run Zoom. I think that's probably the most challenging thing he'll be doing is running Zoom, which means he needs a decent camera and a decent processor. I think that's probably going to be okay. And those are on Amazon. You can get overnight delivery if you want, if you're in a hurry.
No, it's not that urgent.
Okay.
Okay, about the Zoom, where do I learn how to activate the transcripts and so on?
Zoom.us is their website. The Zoom he'll be using is not the same Zoom you might be using where you download software. It's a web interface. And so some of the features may be different. I'm not sure what the limitations are on the web-based Zoom in terms of...
Okay, specifically when I am taking a college course and it's on a Zoom, they will have it set up for transcripts on the side, which can be saved. On my genealogy Zoom, they have the transcript, but you cannot save it for some odd reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, they may actually be locking that down. If it's not locked down, it's in the Zoom account. There's recordings. You should be able to download the audio. You're talking about audio transcript or a written transcript?
No, this is a transcript that appears on a character by character on the. But the person putting on the Zoom has to request the Zoom.
Yes.
Request the transcript.
Yeah, he has to enable live transcripts. Yes. And then
bottom, it says save this, and if you do, then it sticks it in one of the document files.
They may not be saving it, or they may be blocking it. You know, professional Zoom users get more permissions than the average bear. But normally, you should be able to download those transcripts once they've been turned on. I think you'll have to check the Zoom page for more details. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.